Following is a live presentation of Molestar Sports and Entertainment, a division of Molson.
Gentlemen, start your engines! Swintel set! Yes! We are racing in Toronto!
Started off as a gray Sunday morning on pit lane, but it takes more than threatening skies to deter die-hard Canadian race fans. They're here in force to see if their three countrymen, Carpentier, Tracy, and Tagliani, can overcome less than favorable starting spots on the grid. It's Penske on the pole. Helio Castro-Neves will lead him into turn one at Molson Indy 2000 on Global. Less than a half an hour from the green flag, the pressure building toward the most intense 2 hours in Canadian sports. That visceral moment when those 25 engines, some 20,000 horsepower, roar to life as one. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Exhibition Place. I'm Don Martin. Good to have you with you along the full global network from coast to coast. Well, from the days of 1986 and Bobby Rahal's first victory in this race to last year's effort from Dario Franchitti when he went virtually wire to wire, it's been an unparalleled success on the streets of Toronto. We expect another record crowd today. And as the race has gotten bigger and better, it's also gotten longer. 17 laps added to this, the 15th anniversary of the Molson Indy. It's the midpoint of the CART FedEx Championship Series. We've had 8 winners in the 9 races so far. Who knows what will happen in race 10? We do know we will have absolutely perfect conditions, a slight breeze off the lake, temperatures in the mid-20s, and there's no question the crowd will enjoy every minute. Even the drivers may be happy, and of course they're never happy. Well, the Molson Indy is never just a race. It's a week-long event. And covering it from that angle is our Laurie Belanger, well situated between turns 10 and 11 at the Oasis. Let's check in with Laurie now.
Thanks, Don. You have got that right. I feel like I'm spending an afternoon at the cottage. There just happens to be a race going on. This is a beautiful 3-tier deck. There are a couple of hot tubs, some comfy Muskoka chairs, so I couldn't really ask for a better location. And as we've seen the line between sport and entertainment disappear, we will be bringing you that view from the race. During the race, you'll see some celebrity interviews. We'll also have a couple of drivers drop by. And as you get a chance to check out the Molson Indy activities, you will see that this has been more than just a race during the Molson Indy Race Week.
He's already passed.
It's a very special town, Toronto, reminding a lot of Europe. We have a lot of Italian here. I think the population of Italian people is over 30%. So, you know, I feel home. You know, it's a special place. And the pretty girls, I think.
He's so much. That would be mine. He's married. I'm not, so you have to be careful.
Yeah, well, I can look.
I think it's a great city. I really enjoy the town. I mean, it's got some great restaurants and some great people, too.
I like the atmosphere. Everybody's really enjoyed to be in the racetrack. Everybody, actually, when you come over here, you know there is a race because everybody's on the rhythm. So it's great to be back.
Toronto è una bellissima città, voglio salutare tutti i miei amici italiani e chissà che non ci rivedremo presto, magari in un momento in cui vestirò un abito diverso.
A variety of events held throughout Race Week raises hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity. The Greg Moore Foundation is one of those.
It's a great event. I think Molson's, I guess, largely and players have jointly put it together. It's a great check going to our foundation, and I think everybody's just going to have a lot of fun. I know Greg would have enjoyed it.
This is great. I mean, this is the first time that I've seen Rick since last year. And to come out and help Greg's foundation, support his family, and support the charities that they're supporting is great.
Spending the day on the golf course was a great chance for drivers and special guests to relax and have some fun.
It's in the hole.
Oh, well, it's out there.
Even if the fun was at the expense of a swinging speedster like Alex Tagliani. And coming as no surprise, you can take the track away from the driver, but you can't take the driver away from the track. And Dario Franchitti, looking to get a leg up on the competition, trying to add some moose power to his race day. One of the most anticipated events of Indy Fest is the Molson Indy Black and White Gala. You might even find a familiar Joe in the crowd.
My name is Joe, and I am Canadian!
The gala event raises money for charity. Paul Tracy's helmet, a tribute to Greg Moore, was auctioned off for $45,000. The excitement continues when entertainment takes to the streets of Toronto, where there were live bands, a little dancing, and even some game playing where racing fans were able to test their own skills. Topping off Indy Fest 2000 is a special invitation to the Molson Indy Drivers VIP party at Wayne Gretzky's restaurant. Where the drivers were in store for more partying, more dancing, and just some hanging around.
Go Canadian drivers, go.
Well, with all of that fun and excitement that happened this week, it's no wonder that this is a favorite race of the drivers and the fans alike. Now let's go down to the pits and check in with Alan Davis.
I'm standing next to Michael Andretti's car. Michael, the winningest driver here in Toronto with 5 wins. He's sporting a new extended nose on his new Lola chassis that he's using this year. They used it in Cleveland with success, and now both he and Christian Fittipaldi will try it here in Toronto. Now over to my pit partner, Todd Lewis.
In front of Jimmy Vassar's car, he'll go out from the 13th slot in today's race. Consistency has kept Vassar in the championship fight. His best finish earlier this season, a 2nd place in Rio, currently tied for 5th in the point standings. He'll be looking for more points here this afternoon. Let's go upstairs to the men who'll call this afternoon's race.
Thanks very much, Todd. Chris McClure, you've covered every Molson Indy since the beginning. Welcome aboard. And Tommy Kendall, you won a 94 Trans Am race here a few years back. You know this track well. We mentioned it off the top, the extended distance this year. What will it do in terms of pit strategy, that kind of thing?
Well, the question, they did that so that it would be a sure thing 3-stop race. Well, of course, the teams have a way, the engineers get involved, and a lot of them, especially the guys up front, I think are all going to try to make it on 2, but that's something to watch, 2 versus 3 stops.
Of course, there's more than one storyline of this race, Chris.
There are several storylines that we intend to follow and see how they develop through the day. We'll take a look at those here. Of course, Tom just talked about it. 2 or 3 pit stops. Will it be an economy run for some of them? Will some of them try to stretch out a lead early, make a 3-stop race out of it by design or whatever? Also, patience pays points. In the case of Roberto Moreno, Tom, he's not that well qualified, so just getting well into the points may be the best thing for him today.
Well, that's what's gotten him to this point. No matter what happens today, he will lead with the points lead, but whether that's 2, 10, 12 points will depend on how much patience he has.
Another thing that we need to keep track of, the return of the Penske magic. Is it true for the year 2000? I think it's well cemented already, but will they be the dominant team for the year? Well, a victory here today would certainly help in that regard. Moving further on, one other thing we have to watch, and that is the Andretti factor. Tom, Michael's in third on the grid. That makes him a factor. He always is here anyway.
He's the only driver who's won from the pole here. He has won 5 times. That kind of record is really unprecedented. Obviously something that Toronto agrees with him. When he gets near the front, gets a whiff of that lead, he's a tough guy to contend with.
And Michael is a new man. He put a 50,000 gym into his house, and unlike the exercise equipment at my place, it actually gets used. Michael is a story, no question about it, but you wonder as well, can Team Green and Paul Tracy bounce back? They had the lead for so long in the series.
Well, Paul's had a tough stretch, but they were 1-2 here last year. I think he's juiced. Paul has an improving car. Dario Franchitti might have been on pole if he hadn't bumped the wall in the second round of qualifying. They could be a big factor today.
I've been trying to take the temperature because this is a critical point. They could either melt down or they could regain form because they've had a real tough stretch. The attitude seems to be one of not pressing too hard, which is exactly what you want to do. You don't want to change what got you here, even if things haven't been going your way. And I have a pretty good feel about Team Cool Green.
Keep it together. It's a long way to the finish. That's the story for now. You're taking a look at a live shot. The car of Juan Montoya as the exhibition grounds awaits the green flag some 20 minutes from now.
Welcome back to the Molson Indy Toronto 2000. That is a picture of Exhibition Place awaiting the drivers and the 15th Molson Indy. Joining me now, as I promised, we would have celebrities today as actor and an avid race fan, Paul Gross. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great, eh?
Paul, I understand that you've been to a few Molson Indies before. What is your favorite Molson Indy memory?
I think it's probably the first time I came. I have no recollection of who won. I couldn't follow it at all until sort of slowly it started to seep into me, but I just remember the noise.
All right, now Helio Castroneves is on the pole today. Do you have a favored driver to win the race?
I think it's going to be Montoya. He's still, I think, the best guy out there.
You think so? We have good conditions for this today, too, as well.
Yes, very good. Nice track, dry. A little windy, but I think it'll be fine.
All right, well, thank you so much. Enjoy the race. We'll now join Don Martin at the top of the National Trade Center. Don.
Thank you, Lori. Well, if you start every sentence with the words, I'm no expert, but we got just the item for you. It's called Kart for Dummies. It's all about the setup on these champ cars. Let's join Chris McClure and Tommy Kendall.
During practice at any FedEx Championship event, the teams have a lot of latitude in terms of car setup, adjusting the springs and the shocks, all of the ride heights, the wings, the settings, all of the things that go into balancing the car. But once they get to competition, it's an entirely different story, and there's a rule to govern that. Let me read it to you. Any device or attachment designed to affect airflow, which are movable or adjustable by a driver while the car is running, shall not be allowed. So that really reduces what you can do. During a pit stop from the outside, the team can help the driver a little bit. On the front wing, the nose cone, it's all one big unit. The big elements of the wing are preset. They can't be changed. But this element can. It's done by lifting the back edge up or down. The adjuster is right here. Clockwise a half turn, you increase the downforce by 0.2 of a degree. Go the other way, and of course you decrease the downforce. But when you increase downforce to pin the front of the car to the ground, you also add drag, so there's a bit of a trade-off. In terms of setup of the car and the balance of the car, the tires do come into play just a little bit. Tommy Kendall back there has the details on that.
The days when the tire was thought of as just simply a round and black donut that was your contact with the road, not a part of the suspension, are long gone. The Firestone Firehawks that all the teams employ now have become a very sophisticated part of the overall setup. More so on race day. The springs and shocks that they spend so much time adjusting are underneath the bodywork and cannot be accessed during a pit stop. Where does that leave you if you miss the mark a little bit or conditions change? Well, fortunately, with the advent of the radial tires, when you change the pressure, the overall tire does not change in size. However, it does change the spring rate. A 1 pound change in tire pressure corresponds with a 60 to 70 pound change in overall spring rate of the tire, which affects the overall system, which is over 3% of the 1,500 pounds of spring rate in the tire. So a 1/10 of a pound is the increment they adjust. They will set this tire pressure within 1/10 of a pound, which changes the dynamic rake of the car, lowering the front or the back or the overall car and changing the rake to adjust that all-important downforce generated by the underbody of the car. The final component of the aerodynamic equation, of course, is the rear wing.
The rear wing these days is not very adjustable in terms of its major components, just like out in the front. This is set before the race. This element is set before the race. And on the Lolas, also the wicker bill is set before the race. So none of the elements and the angles on the rear wing during the race can be changed. Some of the cars in the field still do have removable wicker bills so they can change the downforce at the back, but not everybody. Again, if you add downforce and pin the back of the car further to the track, you also add drag. The wing compromise at play once again. In the cockpit, the driver has a lot of options during the race at his fingertips. Tommy, show us those.
It used to be more mechanical in nature. Before, again, the advent of the aerodynamics, you had front and rear anti-roll bar adjustment. Now that has become less important. You have just one adjuster. That adjusts the front anti-roll bar here on the left side of the cockpit. Tucked way over here in front of the shifter, which you can't even access, is the brake proportioning valve, changing the brake bias from the front to the rear. Again, not a big adjustment unless you have some sort of a problem or if you get rain in the race. However, you hear them talk about it over and over and over, the fuel. Those are the biggest adjustments the driver's making. You have a different fuel map, 3 to 5 fuel maps can be stored here, including different sparks, etc. And then within those fuel maps, you have this adjustment, which goes to 8 different positions, which makes small adjustments. You'll have a yellow flag position, which is maximal fuel conservation, all the way down to, and everything in between, where the driver, at the instruction of the crew, will adjust this throughout so he can hit his fuel number.
Yeah, what they said. Yeah, I hope you're paying attention. There'll be questions later. They're in the pits. We're getting ready for the Molson Indy 2000 on the Global Television Network. We are 22 minutes away from Gentlemen, Start Your Engines.
Welcome back to the Toronto Molson Indy 2000. I am high above pit lane in the Molson Oasis this afternoon, and we still have a few minutes before race time gets here. Before we do that, here's some help from Chris McClure on how to identify the drivers you're going to see this afternoon in the race.
In the case of Team Penske, they've won 3 this year. There are a couple of obvious differences between the two to tell them apart. The helmets, white on the right for Gilles de Ferran, red on the left for Elio Castroneves, and the numerals, red and black, both nose and side. That helps a lot. Target, Chip Ganassi, 1 win this year so far for the team. There are 3 items that separate the 2 runners. The roll hoop just behind the drivers help you with the side shot or when they're coming right at you, red and gold. The helmets are different, blue and red for Jimmy Vasser, Juan Montoya white, and the numerals again on the nose, white against yellow. Team players, 3 items here as well. The nose, the helmet, and the numerals on the rear wing. The nose is a little bit subtle. You take a look at the very point of the car. Patrick Carpentier remains blue, and on Alex Tagliani, a little sticker there that's in red. The helmets, yellow and blue, and on the back wing, side plate, white versus red on the numerals. Team Cool Green, the folks that went 1-2 in Toronto last year. On the nose, there's a significant difference. Paul Tracy has a gold stripe right down to the front of the car, and there's a red blaze on Franchitti's car. The white cross on the top of the helmet separates the two, and on the side plate of the rear wing, again a difference, a gold number and a white number for Paul Tracy. In Newman Haas, several differences as we consider them in the pits. The helmets are different. Yellow for Christian Fittipaldi, and the familiar Andretti colors for Michael. The numerals, yellow and white, and the top of the side pod. An interesting but subtle difference right here between Michael and Christian Fittipaldi. This event in Toronto sees the helmet of Paul Tracy a little bit different than normal. In honor of Greg Moore, he is wearing Greg's helmet design in honor of his past friend.
end of the national anthem, and that means we're close to the green flag here at the Molson Indy 2000. Well, if you're looking for a Team Canada in the race, who better than the players' team, Patrick Carpentier and Alex Tagliani, friends and competitors on and off the track.
I was not nervous at all, but I think it was a rookie mistake because I had a problem on the rear tire. It was like an unbalanced tire, and I went out and I saw the guys fitting on the yellow, and they were putting fuel, and I thought they were also putting tires, and you know, I didn't want to lose the race with 9 laps to go. So on the restart, I was pushing quite hard, maybe too hard for nothing. I got a little bit too greedy. I wanted to win at any cost, and I paid a price.
Normally when that happens and there's like 5-10 laps to go, you let the guy go by and let the race be, and if you lose some points, well, too bad. But I'm stuck in between two ways. You know, my team wants me to keep going and they're going to pay the fine, and they want me to get as much points as I can, and then the series hates me, and the show is not very good, and I think I was hated by a lot of people on TV that were watching and like wondering what I was doing.
Part of the learning curve is mistake equals punishment, but the drivers put that behind them, especially when they're coming home to race.
It's been very busy. That's the busiest week we have all year, and now it's time to get to racing.
For me, I'm very happy to do all those stuff because it shows that all the way around Canada, and especially in Toronto, the enthusiasm of racing is at a high level right now. The fans, the crowd in the stands, the support we have, it's awesome, and I'm proud to be Canadian because of that.
Canada's racing future is in good hands with drivers like Patrick and Alex, who have learned to appreciate what they have accomplished.
It was a dream come true to be able to compete in the Kart FedEx Championship, and first time in Canada with the Kart Series. It's something different, and you see how much people there is in the stands, and the crowd is fantastic. A lot of support, so it gives us a little bit of motivation.
I just enjoy life, you know. I think I'm very fortunate because I'm healthy, and I'm very fortunate because I do what I love, and I make a lot of money doing it. So I think for now it's a perfect life. There's no injuries.
Patrick and Alex, 17th and 19th on the grid as we take a look at the Team Penske pits. The drivers in the car getting ready to go. Helio Castroneves, Gilles de Ferran looking for the 4th win in the past 6 races for Team Penske. The magic returns after really a 3-year drought. See the crowd, they're getting ready for it. The anticipation is building. There's no question it's a stunning day down here at the lakefront. A little bit of wind, but certainly not enough to disrupt things. The temperature in the mid-20s Celsius, so it's comfortable on and off the track. Drivers naturally will heat up. They'll lose anywhere between 7 and 8 pounds, maybe more, dehydration over the rest of the course of the race, which has been lengthened to 112 laps. Team Pool Green there, you see, trying to get things back in action. Is that Michael Andretti? It looks like the eyes are concentrating. He's focused, ready to go. Michael, of course, looking for his 6th win, obviously a record. He's the only man to win off the pole here back in 1991. In fact, the pole position has been a bit of a curse. The last 3 winners have come from the 2 spot, the outside of row 1, which seems like a better line into turn 1. Last year, of course, Dario Franchitti overtook Gilles de Ferran, went on to win it basically from there, wire to wire. You can see the drivers in the car. This is the moment. They're getting ready for it. They'll start the engines. They will fire it up. There'll be 2 pace laps, and then they'll be off to a running start heading into turn 1 and then down the lakefront at some 300 kilometers an hour. Top qualifying time yesterday, 110.4 miles an hour, roughly 177 kilometers per hour. It is definitely a moment we've been waiting for. The opening ceremonies are here. Let's join Paul Hendrick of Molstar with the official opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we get set to race live in the streets of Toronto for the 15th annual year, and of course in a matter of 2 hours we will have perhaps a new champion. Time will most certainly tell. This has been a first half in this Kart FedEx Championship Series, dominated in part by Brazilian brilliance, but the Molson Indy is a made-in-Canada event. And And, of course, the partisan crowd here firmly behind the likes of Paul Tracy, Patrick Carpentier, and Alex Tagliani. Well, to get the adrenaline moving from sea to shining sea, who better than to introduce at this exact moment than an icon in Canadiana? He's a rather shy guy. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for Mr. Joe Canadian.
Hey, how you doing? I am not a lumberjack or a fur trader. I don't live in an igloo, eat blubber, or own a dog sled, and I don't know Jimmy, Susie, or Sally from Canada, although I'm certain they're really, really nice. I have a prime minister, not a president. I speak English and French, not American, and I pronounce it about, not a boot. I can proudly sew my country's flag on my backpack. I believe in peacekeeping, not policing, diversity, not assimilation, and that the beaver is a proud and noble animal. A toque is a hat, a Chesterfield is a couch, and it is pronounced said, not say, said. Canada's the second largest landmass, the first nation of hockey, and the best part of North America. My name is Joe, and I am Canadian! Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Now for his opening remarks, the President and CEO of Molson Incorporated, Mr. Dan O'Neill.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's give a round of applause for Joe. Hey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you once again to the 15th running here in the streets of the Molson Indy of Toronto. It's been a great week for all of us. Indy Festival activities, the parties, the drivers, getting out to meet the fans. Molson is very, very proud to be partners with the Indy Kart Racing and the City of Toronto in putting on this race, which has become, without doubt, one of the greatest events over the summer. We are looking forward to having another exciting race this year, and I would like to thank first all the Molson employees who put in a lot of time and effort over the year to make this party happen, the race organizers, the city employees, the police, the emergency services, as well as all the drivers and their crews. We're doing a fabulous job in putting together what I think is one of the best organized, well-run kart races. Thank you very much to everyone. Have a great day. Good race. Thank you.
Let's bring on the Minister of Tourism, Cam Jackson, our Toronto Sun winner, Jennifer Mackay, and as well, Jeff Douglas for the 4 most important words in racing. Ladies, gentlemen, start your engines.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Before the season is done, on 20 different occasions, this moment will have been relived. The moment of truth for 25 competitors in one of the great racing series of all time. The engines coming to life along pit road, where all 25 of them are now motionless, parked in echelon style. But in just a few seconds, when all of the crew's hands go into the air, indicating that their engines are fired, their drivers are ready, they will answer the call. And the pace can parade cars will pull away from pit exit, and in single file order, they will move on to the racing circuit. 3 laps from now, we will be racing in Toronto. 2 parade laps, 1 pace lap, and then they go to work. A very dramatic moment each and every time, Tom Kemp.
Yeah, as excited as I am, I haven't been to Toronto since 1994, but these guys' hearts are beating out of their chest. The uncertainty, is the car set up right? Am I ready? all that stuff, the uncertainty is what kills you. The minute the green flag drops, they'll be as calm as can be. But now they're focused on the job at hand and just trying to keep their nerves in check.
Of course, they do have some business to take care of during these parade laps. A bit of anticipation, certainly. Perhaps there are worries leading to the car and the power plant, trying to get the engine systems up to temperature. Make sure the tires are scrubbed in and up to temperature and ready to go. They've got 3 times around to do that, to address any slight problems there might be on board. But if anything big jumps up right now, it's too late to really do much about it. The starting grid will be this way. On the pole, Helio Castroneves for the 3rd time in his career and the 2nd time this year, representing Penske Racing. On the outside of the row, his best qualifying ever. It's the youngster Cristiano D'Amata, also a Brazilian, on behalf of PPI Motorsports. Michael Andretti on the inside of row number 2. He's won this event 5 different times, and last year's champion of the series, though he had a tough go in Toronto, it is Juan Montoya. Dario Franchitti anchors the 3rd row, flanked on the outside by Christian Fittipaldi with Ford Power. In row number 4, Kenny Brack, who is a rookie in the series, coming off 2nd place at Cleveland, and Gilles de Ferran, the only man in the series to win twice this year. Row number 5, it is Adrian Fernandez, the Toronto winner in 1996, and Mauricio Guzman, whose only career victory came in Canada. That was in Vancouver in 1997. Oriol Servia, a rookie, he went 3rd at Detroit, his best finish so far. And on the outside of the row, it is Paul Tracy. He won Long Beach earlier this year from 17th position. Jimmy Vasser on the inside of row number 7, 2nd at Rio this year, 3rd at Long Beach. He's been a champion in the series, and Max Pappas, who got his breakthrough victory at the season opener at Homestead, the first of his career. Mark Blondell, who won here in 97, leading wire to wire, and Max Pappas on the outside, Roberto Moreno. He was the winner in Cleveland with his first pole there as well. Row 9, Patrick Carpentier, 4 top 5s this year, and Brian Herta sitting in for Tony Kanaan. Row number 10 on the inside, it's Alex Tagliani and Michel Jourdain Jr. on the outside. Row number 11, Shinji Nakano and Norberto Fontana, a couple of rookies in the series. Row 12, Tarso Marquez ran a top 10 at Detroit, and Takuya Kurosawa, 8th race in his rookie campaign. At the back, Luis Garcia Jr. on row number 13, his 20th career start. And there you have them, 25 runners and riders ready to do battle in Toronto as we look from on board over the head of Max Pappas as they move down the long straightaway into turn number 3, an area where we will see a lot of attempted passing before the day is done.
And notice at the apex of all the tight corners, they've replaced the asphalt with concrete patches, and that's one of the things that the drivers have to contend with because the grip level is drastically different. You'll see some guys dealing with it differently, trying to straddle them, but there really is only one quick way across them, so that whoever has solved the setup riddle the best in terms of making the car grab that concrete will likely check out.
That's the rear wing of Mark Blondell's machinery. We'll ride on board with him through the course of this event as well today. They're coming up to turn number 7. That's it, just behind turn number 8, which is a hard right-hander. A passing zone at some times, also very tricky, diabolical, a lot of use of the runoff over there as time goes on through a race.
And that's where Dario Franchitti had his trouble in qualifying yesterday. They're on such a knife edge, and there's very little room for error. The tires jump out and bite you if you're even a foot or so off wide.
Helio Castroneves into turn number 1. He will lead the charge less than a lap from now to get this 112-lap event. 196.56 miles in total. They've got 109 gallons of methanol fuel in order to get that distance. Some will try for a 2-stop race. Some will settle for a 3-stop race. Fuel will be a concern throughout. Tires and marbling may be less a concern than it has been sometime in this series on this circuit. There's Roger Penske. He said in the middle of the year of 1999, we're coming back. I've decided we're going to be a good team again. He's kept his promise.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've only been an IndyCar fan for 3 years, you'd think Penske who, because they have been a non-factor. And when he said that last year, people said, okay, well, maybe he's lost his way, is not kept in touch. But when Roger Penske takes the blame like he did, he says, this is on my shoulders, that also means he's going to fix it. And he literally cleaned house. made changes in virtually every department, and the biggest move perhaps is probably the switch to the Reynard. He still has Penske cars, that updates the Reynard. They're calling him rain skis or Penards, whatever you want to call them. They're more of a hybrid than the other Reynard.
Pace car pulling away right now, and Helio Castroneves is coming up right behind the pace car, slowing it down now in turn number 10. They'll try and get in 2-by-2 order. The pace car has left the track. We only have 3 rows in a little bit of a ragged order onto the straightaway, and Neves hammers the throttle. Will they let him go? Will Jim Swintel say yes? He does. The green flag waves. A lot of the field left way back up the track, but into turn number 1, Helio Castroneves, he stayed right on the tail of the pace car all the way to turn 11, jumped the start and took off. We're on board with Juan Montoya. That's Michael Andretti just in front. Mike takes driver's right. He'll probably stay there into turn number 3, leaving no passing option. And Helio misses the corner. Michael misses the corner. It's Franchitti into the side of Juan Montoya. So turn 3 bites right away.
I'll tell you what, that happened. You saw 3 different cars all by themselves having trouble getting it slowed down. I would think there's some sort of a surface condition that everyone was unaware of, because it was obviously drastically different than warm-up. All 3 cars all by themselves and started a chain reaction.
Helio Castroneves gathered it up and continued around that corner, a bit of out of line, but that meant Cristiano D'Amata jumped to the lead, and he's going to be the leader of record when they come back to the stripe, concluding lap number 1, and the full course yellow is going to be displayed. First place, Cristiano D'Amata, then Helio Castroneves, Michael Andretti tucked in, and back in turn number 3, they're trying to pull the 2 cars apart. It looks as though the nose is stuck into the suspension on the right rear of Juan Montoya's car. Take a look at it, coming down to the hard braking zone into 3. First out of shape was Neves, and then things happened behind.
That really started the chain reaction. You saw Castroneves lock the rear brakes coming in there. Montoya got a little crossed up, sideways, slowed down. Dario had nowhere to go. Take a look. Watch it happen up ahead with Castroneves.
There he goes. Michael locks him up as soon as he sees that happening. He goes wide. They get through the corner, and there's going to be alerts right here. Bump. And to the right-hand side, it is Dario Franchitti's car stuck in the side of Montoya's, and they can't get them apart.
The wing is underneath. It popped underneath. The wing is underneath, captured on the inside of the rear wheel. They've got one of those quick floor jacks, and it's not raising it up high enough.
So they're going to continue that work. The kart safety team on hand. Muscle power is what they have in mind. Already a new nose for Franchitti's car. If they can get him pulled apart, he's already told him. He said, get a nose out, guys. The rest of the car is fine.
Unfortunately, what this means, though, is because they could not get separated, these guys have all gone a lap down.
Right.
Conceivably, they could come back, top up. It would be a sure thing. 2 more full-stop race, and they would be back in the lead pack, a little bit out of sequence. But here, their race is virtually over. They're a lap down.
And that's Juan Montoya's team waiting for him. He'll have to go back to the pits as well for some repair on the right rear, perhaps. They'll just have to wait until they get a good look at it. Under yellow, the standings after a lap into leader lap number 2. It's D'Amata at the point, then Helio Castroneves, Andretti, Fittipaldi, Breck, DeFerrin, Fernandez. And here's the start. Look how ragged it is in behind. I thought we might have get a yellow over that start, but we did not. And protecting the line into the corner, Neves pretty good. You see D'Amata was way outside to driver's left. Michael tried to tuck in underneath and pick up a spot right away. They all got through, but there was only about 8 of them that went through in that lead pack. Let's go down to Todd Lewis. He's in the Target Chip Ganassi pit. Todd?
They're waiting for Juan Montoya, who ran out of racing room, as you mentioned, going into turn number 3. He got T-boned. That's only part of the problem, of course, losing the rear wing. He'll be making a stop. They'll replace the wing. He will go back out, but he'll be back to start the restart.
That's Luis Garcia Jr., who's gone to the pit for a quick top-off of fuel. And there's Dario Franchitti. He's gone through turn number 3, got it straightened around, and now under his own power climbing the hill. And Juan Montoya's car continues to sit in turn 3. They're going to put a strap on and see if they can give him a bump start, and then he'll make his way back to the pits. So, in the early moments in Toronto, D'Amata leads.
The Molson Indy Toronto is sponsored by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian. And by Dodge. Dodge is proud to be the official vehicle sponsor of the Molson Indy Toronto. Visit your neighborhood Dodge retailer and discover the Dodge difference. And by Ascenda. Reach customers, drive sales, and increase profits with Ascenda from Sprint Canada, the complete marketing toolkit for small business, and proud sponsor of the Molson Indy Toronto.
In the pits here, as you can see,
around the racetrack.
I am here in the pits. As you can see, they are hauling away Dario Franchitti's car. The wing is damaged. The suspension is damaged. Dario is under the car. Obviously disappointed, guys. The former champion from last year out of today's race. Back upstairs.
There you look at a crowd as Oriol Servia and Gilles Deferrin get side by side in one. As you can tell from the pitch of the engines, we're back under green. The cleanup has been concluded. Also out of the car is Juan Montoya. Both those cars came to the pits. Franchitti and Montoya out of the event. The rest of them are chasing the elusive prize into turn number 3. A bit of a crowd. Cristiano D'Amata was the guy who got the break in turn number 3 in lap number 1 just prior to the yellow. He now leads. He's leading a race in earnest with a car under him he trusts. A big moment for this youngster.
Yeah, no question. That team's been knocking on the door. It took them a little longer to get up to speed. You know, the Target guys switched to the Toyota. The Toyota made a big leap forward, was competitive from the get-go. Cal West says that's going to be a good report card for us. If we're off the pace, it's our own fault. And it took them a little while to gel, but both he and Oriol have been really moving to the front. Podium finishes. Cristiano third last week, qualifies second here, now leading. This kid, everybody's talking about it. A lot of buzz about Cristiano D'Amata. Looks a lot like the late Ayrton Senna, just visually, and drives a little bit like him as well.
He's on the straightaway, and Alan Davis has tracked down Dario Franchitti. Alan?
Dario, another unfortunate incident for you off the top. It must be very disappointing. Are you okay, first of all?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just a bit confused as to what happened. There was 3 of us very close, Michael, Juan, and myself, and I don't know what happened. It's not good.
Well, you can start the second half. I know you can look forward. You had a pretty good first half so far. Obviously disappointed today.
It's an understatement.
Thank you.
Kenny Breck right now trying to pick up some spots in the field. He's 5th at the moment, the top-ranked rookie in the early going here. Todd Lewis has found Juan Montoya. Todd?
Montoya, it's a tough early exit. What happened? Can you shed any light?
I don't know. I think, it was a pretty good start. I thought, I didn't want to cause any incidents in the first corner, so I took it pretty easy. I thought I could have got Michael and Cristiano. And, suddenly when I was breaking the hairpin, started running in the back of my car. It's a shame. I'm sure he didn't do it on purpose, but that's racing.
Another early exit, Toronto. Thank you. Back upstairs.
Still under the green. We are working a couple of laps since the green came back out. Cristiano D'Amata pulling away a little bit as they funnel down toward the end of the straightaway into turn number 3. There's Paul Tracy moving through with Oriol Servia just behind him. Tracy, who started well down in 12th place, he's up to 7th.
Yeah, he was the benefactor. He got 2 spots, obviously, with those cars parked by the side, but then we saw that scrum on the restart with he, Oriol, Gilles Deferrin, and Paul Tracy finds himself in second. This is just the kind of scramble he needed to make up some easy spots. If he gets some good pit work, maybe he might look to him to abandon the 2-stop early, to get out of sequence, take on enough fuel, make it a 3-stop, try to get on some clear track and make up some more track position. But he's in striking distance now.
He's trying to track down his immediate target, Adrian Fernandez, who is in 6th position. There is the leader in the corner. There goes Helio Castroneves, Mike, and then Christian Fittipaldi all together on the straightaway. Then a little bit of a space back to Kenny Breck. And following down into the corner, it is D'Amata who has had a lead of up to a 1.5 seconds right after the restart. Now it's down under a second. Castroneves perhaps took a little longer to get everything back to operating temperature in his car, or just got jumped on the start, but he's drawing back a little bit.
Well, he was the guy that started that whole mess in turn 3 and recovered, really got off relatively scot-free, but yesterday was a pretty good indication. He has a little bit in hand over the whole field. We're talking, when I say a little bit, we're talking maybe a 1/10 of a second, but looks to be the fastest car in the field. Going to try to track down Cristiano. That 1/10 of a second is probably not going to get him by him, but I expect him to pull right up on the back of Cristiano.
In front of the pit straightaway, they go one more time and across the stripe. 8 laps are concluded of 112. So D'Amata's down to 0.8 of a second lead. Now,
with a little bit of yellow in the early going. That extends the first pit window out a little bit should a team elect to go that way in terms of a two-stop race. We thought if it went green the whole first segment, they could go out to perhaps lap 35 or 36. Maybe lap 40 is available now, which helps them make it a two-stop race.
Yeah, it does. And early on, especially if there's no defining moment that switches from one strategy to another, you have to try to save fuel early on. At some point, if someone gets too close, says the heck with it, kind of like Roger Penske did at Portland, then they can switch over to the other strategy, rich up the fuel mixture, go to max power, and just try to outrun them and make up the distance that we're going to have to give away on that extra stop.
Fifth place belongs to Kenny Breck right now. He's won the Indianapolis 500, but currently listed as a rookie in this series, which he is. In 5 of the last half-dozen races, he's finished in the top 5. We talk about various campaigners ready for a breakthrough, including Cristiano Damata. Here's a fellow who's also coming off the podium at Cleveland, who's ready to win in this series.
Yeah, and he's been in the IRL, so people think of him perhaps as a noble guy, but all of his upbringing was in Europe, the Barber Dodge Series over here. He's tested Formula 1 for Williams, won the Formula 2000 championship, so he's really a road racer at heart, and it didn't take him long to get up to speed.
You look at his space back there. He's got a little room on Fernandez trailing and a little room on Christian Fittipaldi ahead of him. I mean, you're not driving by yourself out there, but with that kind of space front and back, are you just within yourself, measuring the car, driving your own race at that point?
Yeah, it's a little better than running in the pack, because in the pack you might be quite a bit quicker than the guy in front of you, but you can't expend the extra fuel, or even if you're don't have fuel concerns, you just can't get by anyone, and so you're going to be limited by his speed. Kenny can run his exact race. He's obviously pushing quite hard, but he's not constrained in any way by the cars in front of him. So one thing I noticed about the Shell car, if you're watching both the Rahal cars, I should say, are both Breck and Pappas seem to be a little stiffer, a little more dancing under braking than the other cars. You watch it, the head's kind of a good indication. Even though he's in the car, knows better than anyone where it's going to go, the head's bobbing around a good bit. Those cars just seem a little bit more nervous than the rest of the cars in the field.
So the leader, Cristiano Damata, is turning laps at 103.5 miles an hour. By comparison, Kenny Breck turned a lap there at 103.2. So losing some space on the front, at least over the last couple of laps. It's spreading out a little bit in that lead serial, although on the screen, as you can see, it doesn't look like it's spreading out a whole lot. But there is a speed difference in that top 4, for example, and the quickest among them right now is Cristiano Damata, but only by a little bit.
Something to keep in mind with Damata, this is the first time he's led convincingly like this. Cristiano is the smallest driver in the field. He and Roberto Moreno go at 125 pounds, and that shows itself in virtually every area of performance, including fuel economy. It's about, over some drivers, as much as 2% lighter. So he accelerates better, he stops better, he turns better, and he gets better mileage, just strictly on the physics.
Now, you always wonder if there's a change in tactics when somebody closes down, but in the last lap, Helio Castroneves did a little bit of a speed up and closed down on Damata once again. But we're at Toronto. We're working leader lap number 12. Cristiano Damata has the point. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Global Network's coverage of Molson Indy Toronto 2000. We ride on board with Mark Blundell, currently listed in the 13th position in this event. One space away from earning at least a point for his weekend's work. We're going to ride on board with him a little bit. You were talking about a little bit of an understeer a moment ago as you watched him, Tom.
Yeah, you watched him. Watch how much steering angle he puts in. I get a kick out of these steering wheels. The Mercedes steering wheel is so big. There's so much information, so many switches. It looks like he's driving, shuffling an Etch-a-Sketch. But beyond that, listen to the engine here. A little bit of a lag. Now, when we go on board with Max Pappas, listen for the difference. The Mercedes, some of the criticisms, you won't hear them coming from individual teams, but the knock against the Mercedes is it lacks the drivability of the Honda, for sure, perhaps the Ford and even Toyota.
Paul Tracy there with Oriol Servia all over his back right now. That's a fight for 7th position. Following that two-car serial, Gilles de Ferran. And Paul's picked up some in the suspension on the right front. It's just a big piece of paper that got stuck in there. Servia looks down to driver's left. That's not the preferred line into turn number 3, and he has to swing it a little bit wider into the corner.
I can't tell if that's a trash bag or a part of a banner. It's holding together too well for it to be a banner. So what's going on here, as soon as that caught on, that caused a lot of vibration, and Paul might be able to see a little bit of that flapping, but coming down the straightaway, all of a sudden he just feels a little bit of vibration, sees something out of the corner of his eye. Chances are not affecting the performance.
I have down here in the pit of Takuya Kurosawa, who is out of the race. Looks like a broken exhaust, guys. Takuya is gone. Let's go back upstairs.
So another retirement. Now it looks like the plastic has gotten in behind the wheel. I suppose it's the lesser of two evils if you have to have that as a passenger, because if it tears loose and plugs that radiator intake, you got a bigger problem.
Yeah, you're going to be in the pits in short order. Now, so now that Paul knows that it's just something, it's a little bit of a bother, it'll work on his mind a little bit, but by now he realizes the car is okay. It's not a major failure. It's just a slight distraction. They'll clean that off at the first pit stop. As long as it doesn't go in the radiator, it shouldn't be too big of a problem.
Meantime, Cristiano D'Amata up front, leading by about a second. It's been a fairly steady margin for him as they go through turn number 8 and back toward the front straightaway. The two Newman-Haas entries, Andretti and Fittipaldi, engaged as much as anybody in the top 4. That's a battle for 3rd and 4th. Michael Andretti has 3rd. Christian certainly would like to have it away from him. And Kenny Brack maintaining contact with the front through most of the sections of the course, except those that are real quick sequences of corners. He can see the leader. That helps.
Yeah, you can gauge that, and he'll have an idea where he's gaining, where he's losing, based on, when you go into a corner, the guy cuts out of your view at the exact same spot. But the only guy right now, the wild card here is Christian Fittipaldi. He's able to run comfortably right on Michael's tail. It's not worth taking a big chance, especially with your own teammate. There's additional repercussions if you get into it with your teammate. You've got to answer to Carl Haas. But he looks to me like he might be perhaps the strongest car of those 4.
And again, we check in with Paul Tracy. Some of the plastic's still there, although a lot of it is torn off in little shards and left the car. Alan Davis, you've got more.
That's right. Paul Tracy has said the debris doesn't bother him. He seems fine. He hadn't said anything up until that point. The car's been working fine for him. And as you guys noted, I don't think it's bothering him at all at this point.
He's not going to let it bother him. Off the course and going through the runoff is Luis Garcia Jr. I believe that's at the end of the straightaway down at 3. He didn't quite get the radius of the corner, so they're going to pull him back, and he's going to straighten out and rejoin. Obviously, discretion a better part of valor. When you miss the corner, go through, come back, regather yourself. The leader is D'Amata, then Helio Castroneves, Andretti, and Fittipaldi. You're watching Molson Indy Toronto on Global.
Labor Day weekend, Global Television presents the 11th annual Molson Indy 2000 live from Vancouver. Don't miss a single lap as world-class drivers like Michael Andretti, Dario Franchitti, and Paul Tracy get set to take on the demanding Vancouver track at up to 300 clicks an hour. For the inside track on the race, visit the Indy website at molsonindy.com. To see the smoke, smell the rubber, and feel the power, call 604-280-INDY for your tickets. The Vancouver Molson Indy 2000. Global's got it Labor Day weekend.
When you're
Welcome back to the Toronto Molson Indy 2000, and a couple of early exits from some challengers surprised everyone up here at the Molson Oasis, especially those who had Juan Montoya and Dario Franchitti in the pool. So that allowed Christian D'Amato to jump into the lead, and that's where we are right now. Back to you, Chris.
Well, we had been noticing, Laurie, that Mark Blundell had a couple of very sour laps. His last trip around was 100 miles an hour, but he had dropped back to 15th from 13th a few moments ago. Now he stopped, Tom, and he's giving signals to the track workers, but something drastic went wrong with the car.
Yeah, without the sound, it's hard to tell if he came in dead stick and the engine's running. If the engine's still running, he's not going. Obviously, there's probably more in the gearbox area. He's asking for a push. I think he wants to push out of the way because he doesn't like that spot he's sitting in.
Yeah, well, he's on the outside of a pretty high-speed bending corner as they go by. And the green flag you saw out there was downstream of the car. The local yellow signals the area you can't pass or do anything. And then up the track 100 yards or so, the green, which tells those that are running at full song, go ahead. Mark Blundell looking a little frustrated if you can read his hands there.
Yeah, no question about it. Right as we cut away from Blundell, Kenny Brack came across another plastic bag, a smaller one. It was a ways off in the distance. I couldn't see if he sucked the bag in his side pod or not.
We'll take a look at that if we can get a picture of it. Meantime, the leaders are beginning to overtake some traffic. Cristiano D'Amata on the point, and the kart safety team, Dave Hollander out there directing traffic. The big fella out in front telling them how to do it and where to put the car. He's in charge normally when they come on the scene. Terrific job by the kart safety team all weekend, but that's not unusual. They do a terrific job every single time they come to a race. Todd Lewis, you've got more.
On Mark Blundell, he just told the crew that the car quit. He does not know why. He's looking for a push or a tow back to the pits, but he does not know why the engine just stopped.
That's at turn number 2. They're pushing him backward into the exit of the turnaround there, and I'm not sure from there they're going to be able to get him back to the pits, and I'm not sure they will try. If the car is off power completely, they may just say, Mark, step aside, your day is done.
I think I just saw a little smoke coming from the tail end of Cristiano D'Amato's car.
You know, it's interesting. On Friday in the qualifying, there were reports from observers all around the course as he now starts to deal with some traffic as the race leader. I think he's catching up with Luis Garcia Jr. There was smoke reported coming out of the car. They brought it in, they checked it, Cart called him in, they checked it. They did that 3 times during the session. Then they went back and checked the motor, and they said there is nothing we can find wrong with this car, and they qualified the second day with the same engine. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem to bother anything. He didn't seem worried about it when I asked him that very question yesterday.
Now, this is interesting. He's in traffic with Luis Garcia Jr., but they're running about the same speed, even though Garcia's had his trouble bit down the escape roads, running about the same speed. When he can finally get up on his back, if Garcia does not yield, here you have Michael Andretti closing up on Castroneves.
You know, it looked like Mike was thinking about rolling that car right underneath him into the corner, and here comes Oriol Serbia. Bold move to the inside against Tracy. He pulled it off. Will he make it stick? Yeah, Paul tried to get the power down and jump up that hill and maybe get the spot back, but the back end of the car kicked out, and Serbia's got the position, it would appear, moving him up to 7th.
Paul got a little rubber mark on the nose when he tried to cut back underneath. It looked like he got into the rear of Serbia's car. Just a little smudge on the nose.
Right in the middle of that corner. Take a look at it. We thought Serbia had enough to get by him, and down to the inside. He takes driver's right. Tough entry right there. But if you can do it, it's pretty. And he does.
And there's where he got the little nose. If he'd hit it with the wing plate, that would have sliced the tire right down. But he hit it with the nose, just a little paint job on the nose.
So a good lap for Oriol Serbia, and Paul Tracy drops down 1 space after a good early race advancement from 12th into 7th. But Serbia now has that position, and he is the second-ranked rookie in the field. Kenny Brack continues to run in 5th position, and there is Cristiano D'Amata continuing to tour along, turning laps, very consistent laps, mind you, at 103.5 miles an hour. Similar to what Moreno did at Cleveland. His race laps, all but slow down laps, out laps from pit stops and stuff, were all within 2/10 plus or minus that entire day, and that can win you some races.
It's kind of remarkable. All of a sudden, there you have with Roberto Moreno, first-time winner. Here you have Cristiano D'Amata. Guys acting like they've led races their whole life. What do they actually have in other divisions? Never in the champ cars. But here they are out front, and just unflappable.
Cristiano D'Amata is 1.7 seconds ahead of Elio Castroneves now, and you see Oriol Serbia and Kenny Brack in the distance there. It looked as though Michael had an idea or two against Elio Castroneves a couple of laps ago, including right here, but the space you can see even under braking is a little greater this trip through. Michael thought he saw a seam, he leaped on it, wasn't there, backed off. Now I think for a moment, at least, he is content just to sit there in third and wait things out for a while.
Yeah, it's really, the place he's catching him, it looks like, is actually just the very last little bit of braking. It's not early on. If it was early on, he might be able to get up alongside and kind of stuff it in there, you know, just do the equivalent, the road race equivalent of a slide job. But here he can't do that because it's happening right at the very end of the brake zone where he's getting about a car length.
Max Pappas right now has 1 point for the event should it end at this point. He's in 12th position, looking up at the back wing of Jimmy Vasser, a little bit ahead of him. That's really only a few feet. We get a weird perspective from the onboard cameras in terms of depth of field. He's a lot closer than it looks right there.
That's a little bit of an odd view, but that's the only way you get the perspective down in the cockpit as well.
Onto the straightaway he comes. Jimmy Vasser clears the line, then Max Pappas. The separation between them is about 8/10 of a second, well, almost 2 seconds now. The Pappas has drawn back a little bit from Jimmy Vasser. Back up front we go. It's Cristiano D'Amata. The space to second place remains the same that last trip through. We're up to lap number 25, and for a while now, Tom, the window has been open for those that might go to the pits and start effecting a 3-stop strategy. But with green flag racing continuous, that's somewhat ill-advised.
Yeah, the only guy I would think the first guy to do that is usually Roger Penske. And if you get a yellow in this window, that's usually the one factor that gets him to convert to decide it. He wouldn't do it with the front-running car, but a guy that's stuck in the pack like Bill DeFerrin back in 9th place, that'd be something that would be worth taking a gamble on. This tells me that everybody's pretty confident they can do it on 2 stops.
Cristiano D'Amata cruising along with very consistent laps at the top of the field. Helio Castroneves holding station, about a second and a half behind, a little bit more than that, than Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi, the Ford-powered teammates. And there's the winner from last time out, Roberto Moreno. Now, he has advanced a little bit in the field in the last few laps. He's in 13th position. And part of his exercise is to just do the best he can, get some points, and move on to Michigan still in the points lead. We'll be back to Toronto in a moment. Molson Indy Toronto 2000, the storylines. Well, we're in the first pit window if you want to go 3 stops. A little while longer before it's a 2-stop race. Currently 13th, Moreno moving forward ever so slightly. He's not in the points yet. Penske Magic, well, so far so good. Partial returns, we'll wait and see. Michael Andretti right where he started. He's still a factor. He's still running strong. Team Green, disaster in lap 1. Dario out in the opening lap. At the front, it's Cristiano D'Amata. There he is, picking up traffic as he moves down the long straightaway. Into turn number 3, beautiful overhead shot right there. When you're all alone on the track like that, the entry into 3 is no problem whatsoever. There's Mike taking a look under Helio Castroneves. He gets alongside, almost touching wheels there in the middle of the corner. Michael showed him a little bit of that about 5 laps ago. This time, with Neves a little wider on the corner, Michael thought he might be able to tuck underneath, headed up the hill.
I think what set that up, I think Castroneves took the inside under braking. Michael got a long ways up on the outside, caused Castroneves to overshoot, crisscross back underneath, but the outside of the next little left-hander is no man's land.
So next time down that straightaway, Helio will be thinking about where Mike is very much, I would assume, and watching him in the mirrors. But Mike, I guess he's one of the guys that can just worry you to death from back there.
Well, Michael, he knows every trick in the book, and he's not short on aggression. You know, when he's this close to the front, he's not afraid to stick it down in there. So a little bit of breathing room for Helio. So on that last lap, Michael got a better run up along the outside, and Castroneves took the inside to defend.
And you can see that Kenny Brack and Fernandez are starting to think about joining that serial earnestly. Let's take a look at what happens here. Mike is tighter on the apex there, but still going up the hill. They have to go back to the left, so Helio Castroneves is able to defend on the way up the hill.
It's kind of a greater degrees of what we saw before, but it's starting to get more pronounced, where Michael in that last third of the braking zone is really starting. I would have presumed that Helio is maybe having some sort of brake problem in the car and able to, and so he's having a baby. He's getting it in deep to protect his position.
And he kicks the back end out off 8 as he puts the power down. The transition from concrete to asphalt there, part of the culprit when that happens, and other things come into play, like hitting the throttle a little bit too hard. Into turn number 1, it spaces out, and Mike won't have, even under braking, a very good look at him. Turn 1 is a tricky passing area as well, blind around the corner, as is turn number 3. Let's watch it unfold down to the other end of the straightaway. Here come the top 5, 6 runners, and here it is, brake zone. And we got Roberto Moreno, who is fighting with Tagliani. Tagliani was the guy trying to get by him. I think Roberto just then fought him off. Tagliani and Carpentier, the 2 players' cars, just behind Roberto Moreno. We caught the tail end of a passing attempt by Tagliani against Moreno there.
Hard to say. That's a strange place to close on someone so quickly. So I don't know if Moreno had some sort of a problem, momentarily allowed Tag to get a run on him. But then once he knew he was coming, he shut the door with authority. Now looks like he's back up to speed.
Pappas also involved there. He's just in front of Moreno and a little ways behind Jimmy Vasser at the moment, about 1.6 seconds to that wing in the distance. There's turn 7. Here's turn number 8. Run off to the left, concrete, asphalt, tires to the left. He's through cleanly. Nice, tidy line that time. 9, 10, pit entry to the right. No one's used it yet except those in trouble, and onto the front straightaway. You don't want to get on the red and white stripe. They really bang the car around.
Some of them are painted, some of them are quite severe.
You see the cone they always put out. Don't hit the cone. That's not part of the racetrack. Todd Lewis?
Roberto Moreno is getting excellent fuel mileage. He's continuing the trend. He'll be able to extend his pit window. Look for him on lap 41. His teammate Adrian Fernandez 1 lap earlier.
Okay, 41 laps from the beginning for Roberto Moreno. He always gets good fuel mileage anyway. He got a little bit of yellow, as did everybody in the early going, and we thought some might get to lap 40 after that had transpired.
Jim McGee is a guy who always has fuel in the back of his mind. They've sold races at the end by outfoxing people on fuel. Again, we talked about the weight helping the fuel mileage for Roberto Moreno is the other guy who weighs in at 125.
We're working leader lap number 34 now. The first window for a two-stop race coming up somewhere in the next 3 or 4 laps for most of them, we think. Now, if you're getting bad fuel mileage, and some might be, we may see them in the next time or two, a couple of laps from now. Some may be forced in sooner than others.
Well, that's the first hard data we have. Lap 41 for Moreno, lap 40 for Adrian Fernandez. Lap 40 for Fernandez, even that puts him solidly easy two-stop.
Leader lap 34, as we mentioned, an update on the space between Cristiano Damata and Helio Castroneves, who may have a long brake pedal developing in the car. He's now 3.6 seconds behind, and I'm sure that Michael and Fittipaldi aren't too pleased with that, because until they get by car 3, they can't do anything about the growing space to the lead.
Now, in watching Helio, I was wondering about the long pedal myself. If he had a long pedal, chances are that would affect him a little bit everywhere. His problem seems to be confined to the end of the straightaway. It tells me it's more grip related. He's having trouble more with balance. The front wheel, putting the power down, a little big squirm from the back end. For whatever reason, he might be experiencing a little graining of the tires, and that seems to be the only place that he's really lacking speed-wise. Everywhere else, he's pretty comfortable. But Michael's the closest he's been. Myself, if he had a long pedal, chances are that would affect him a little bit everywhere. His problem seems to be confined to the end of the straightaway. It tells me it's more grip related. He's having trouble more with balance. The front wheels, putting the power down, a little big squirm from the back end. For whatever reason, he might be experiencing a little graining of the tires, and that seems to be the only place that he's really lacking speed-wise. Everywhere else, he's pretty comfortable. But Michael's the closest he's been. Watch.
He takes a look again into turn number 3. Now, those 3 in that serial are turning quicker laps than the lead. So into the tires, number 34, Tarso Marquez. And who's that with him over there? That's number 10, Norberto Fontana. So the two of them apparently getting together, and they're in the same vicinity on the track. That's turn number 8. We've talked about that many times as an area, and the gear is out, and we're going to get some pit stops. We'll count them down for you as they occur. Cristiano Damata on the lead, Helio Castroneves, Andretti Fittipaldi, Breck, Fernandez, Servia, Tracy, DeFerrin, and Gugelmin, the top 10, and we'll chart those pit stops as they occur. Into the pits, Kenny Breck right away, answering the call of his team. So Kenny Breck, the first of the contenders to peel away and head into the pits. Up in the air it goes. Routine so far. The tires are on. Do they do any adjusting at the front? I didn't see anything with the front wing. And the fuel is finished, and away he goes. Also checking in, Maurizio Gugelmin into the pits. We're on leader lap number 35, 36, right about where we thought it might. And Roberto Moreno has turned his car around into, where is that? It is turn number 1 and 2. And he's gotten it snap turned, and he's off and running. But right now, having to fight off the advances of Michel Jourdain Jr. And we're going to a full course yellow. So after a couple of them stop, the full course yellow now being displayed, and everybody's going to dive into the pits. Here comes the race leader. And here's what happened to Moreno. Is that a touch?
Tagliani, oh yes, that's Tagliani down the inside, little left front to right rear.
Tagliani trying to get underneath, and this is what happened in the earlier incident in turn 8 that captured Fontana and Marquez.
That's why you got the sarcastic applause from the cockpit for Norberto Fontana, saying, yeah, brilliant move there, genius.
So with pit stops underway, the leader has gotten his service, and he lights him up as he leads. And Gilles DeFerrin is coming out of the serial. Christian Fittipaldi coming by.
Nose cone off.
And they had contact. Todd Lewis standing by in the pits.
Helio Castroneves in quick, looked like routine service. The other Penske car also in routine service, no adjustment. She'll be very happy.
So off he goes. Christian Fittipaldi was leaving the pits, and he's gone onto the course without a front nose cone, it looked like. Shinzi Nakano getting his service in the pits. The leader on the course is Adrian Fernandez, who has not pitted yet. Cristiano Damata has. Carpentier listed 3rd. He is not pitted. Helio Castroneves is in 4th position. Then Andretti and Fittipaldi, Servia. And they shuffle around. The standings changing considerably during a round of pit stops. We'll update in just a moment. The 55 car, that's Brian Herta. Trouble in the engine compartment. Overheating quite obviously. And I don't know if they're going to be able to continue with that. Take a look in the pits. This is what happened. Gilles DeFerrin, car number 2. Coming along is Fittipaldi
There's the contact, and he ripped that nose cone right off the Lola.
You know what? That's a very weird occurrence. That is brought about. Usually the nose structure is very strong, but what happened there? The Newman Haas team is running an extension on their nose cone. Ordinarily, you would hit and the side wing would break, but the whole nose cone would not. What happened there? You can see that's the actual tub. There's a 5-inch space, so this is going to be problems for them because of that adapter.
Alan Davis is there.
Christian Fittipaldi has come back into the pits, and they have taken the nose off the car, and Christian Fittipaldi is getting out of the car. It is all over for Newman Haas's Christian Fittipaldi. As you can see, the nose is off the car, and they have shut it off.
Well, Tom, you would think probably the violent nature of the separation, all the mounts and screws and Zeus attachments and stuff would just be gone.
Well, what happens usually in the normal configuration, it's built to that wouldn't break away. The wing itself would break away, but because they're running the longer wheelbase, they have kind of a makeshift extension that they have to run to keep the wheels the sufficient distance from the front axle. What happens is that it's separated behind the adapter, and that's not something that's made to be quickly interchangeable.
So we're under yellow for the second time on the day in Toronto. Cristiano D'Amata back in front after the pit stops.
Welcome back to the Toronto Molson Indy 2000. Some unexpected exits for some racers already in this race, and I have an unexpected guest. Welcome, Joe Canadian.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. You did a great job today. How did it feel, you know, out of your normal rant, doing the Gentleman Start Your Engine?
Start Your Engines. It's amazing. You know, it's great to hear like the response to that. And I guess it's honored words, you know, it's hallowed words. So it was great to say it, and then to hear that little rah rah, the roar from the pits is great to hear them start up like that. It's very.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. We'll go to Chris McClure now.
We're in the pits here.
Speaking of the roar of the engines, there we go. They had the full song sound of the Indy cars as they move onto the straightaway. We're back under green. Who is wiggling? Paul Tracy with a big wiggle there. He and Kenny Breck are locked in battle right now. Kenny Breck swings to driver's left, entering the turn. There's Gilles Deferne just behind them. Everybody getting back up to speed. Alan Davis?
We're here with Christian Fittipaldi. Unfortunate, Christian, what happened out there?
Well, I was coming out of the pits. Gilles and Mike were side by side. I honestly thought that Gilles could step in front of Mike because he was on the outside lane, which is the one we're supposed to go. And Mike was just coming out of the pits, but apparently Gilles thought that Michael wasn't going to back off, or I don't know if Michael wanted to back off or no. He stood on the brakes big time, and I was right behind him. But it was a tough call, because if I was on Michael's lane, probably Gilles would have turned on me. So.
Tough luck. Thanks.
Another lap concluded, and we see the players' cars. That's Patrick Carpentier moving past the car of Michel Jourdain Jr., so he picks up that space on the track. Paul Tracy in the last lap did get by Kenny Breck for position. He is now in 6th spot. 4th in the field right now, Adrian Fernandez in car number 40, so a little bit of shuffling and changing of position after the pit stops, including Michael Andretti, who got to 2nd position. Elio Castroneves, during the round of pit stops, shuffled back to 3rd.
That was an opportunistic move by Paul Tracy. That's exactly why he has won as many races as he has. Took advantage. The first stint showed he didn't have the car to run with Kenny Breck, but he took advantage on that restart, stuffed it out inside, cold tires, tough move, and made it stick.
Elio Castroneves there now in 3rd position. We saw a little bit of smoke from his tires last time he approached turn number 1. Take a look at it this time as he gets into the brake zone with Adrian Fernandez and Oriol Servia now in close tow. There's Kenny Breck, Gilles Deferne. I assume the way Deferne is running that nothing happened to the back of his car as a result of the pit contact with Christian Fittipaldi. Of course, he's got the stronger superstructure at the back of the car. You wouldn't expect anything to be wrong, but you never know.
No, and that was also, if he did cut a tire, he was pulling into his pit stall at the time, so that's the only possible thing. That wasn't a very hard hit, and because of that adapter, that it's not as strong a structure as it usually is.
So, through the twisty bits they work, and Elio Castroneves now having a little bit of difficulty maintaining contact even with Michael Andretti. His battle now is from behind. It is Adrian Fernandez and Oriol Servia there. You see the front two guys moving away in the distance. That's D'Amata and Andretti. We had a suspicion that once Michael got by, whichever way it happened, that he would go with D'Amata, and he's doing it.
Well, and something is definitely amiss on Helio Castroneves' car. We're not quite, it's obviously something to do with the slowing him down under braking. He was able to stay in front. Michael is all over, but once he got by, he's checked out. So hopefully maybe we can try to run that one down and find out what it is. Now you have Adrian Fernandez.
He's taking a look
all the way up along the outside.
It's not there. He couldn't quite get up alongside enough. Oriol Servia came along in behind them, and there we have Max Pappas giving up space to Alex Tagliani. That's a battle for 10th in the same corner, moving up the hill. Now we shuffle back forward. There's Helio once again holding on to third, with Fernandez dropping back just a little bit after, well, I guess a half try on the straightaway.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit there. Earlier, I didn't comment on it, but with Michael Andretti, Helio is taking the inside line, but he's also angling back to the outside and almost taking away that lane. This is a fine line between blocking and being defensive, and this has been a topic of discussion for a number of weeks amongst the kart guys. Michael, all the guy asks is that if you choose the inside, stay on the inside. Helio is on the inside, but he angles towards the turning point. That time he didn't do it because Adrian wasn't up alongside, but that is something that Chief Stewart will be watching.
Juan Montoya has changed out of his driving equipment. He went out in the first lap in contact with Dario Franchitti, back in his pits to say hello to his crew and probably thank him. Take a look at Servia there. He's going down to the inside of Adrian Fernandez, side by side through the corner, and they touched wheels as they went through there. This fight is not over. Up the hill they go. Fernandez battling back. Servia to the outside and spins it in turn 5 into the tires in the game effort to get the position. What a fight. 3 turns long up the hill.
That's kind of experience versus enthusiasm. You saw Adrian coming down the inside, but he knew he couldn't go deeper than he went, and I think Oriol was keying off him, went a little deeper than maybe normal.
We're going to see it one more time, but Oriol Servia with power trying to get out of the tires over there. A puff of smoke from the tires. I don't think he can get himself free at the moment. He's going to have to wait for the kart safety team.
He's trying to select reverse.
Yeah. Take a look at it coming up the hill. And the correction just wasn't there.
That snapped sideways pretty suddenly. I don't know if he grabbed his gear earlier, but it looks like the rear's locked.
Kart safety team is there now to try and help him out, and he is embedded nose first into the tires. He got out about half away, and that was all he could manage. Local yellow right now at the start-finish line. Jim Swintel, the official starter, still has all his flags tucked away, and there's a look at the leader, Cristiano D'Amata, with Michael Andretti in close tow. So it's boiled down, at least for the moment, to a 2-car fight at the front through turn number 8, coming back to the pit straightaway one more time. Both of them on fresh tires and a full load of fuel. The first pit stop for everybody that's a contender, having been concluded a few laps ago.
I think Oriol caught Adrian a little bit asleep there, and Adrian was working pretty hard on Castroneves. That time was backing off and didn't really go in, was constrained by Castroneves to the front. Servia took advantage of that, caught him unaware. You saw Adrian start to turn in at the last second. Now Castroneves is in. Let's see where they go to work.
In the back of the car, they're unsnapping the engine cowling, and they tap him on the shoulder. One of the crewmen reaches in, tapped him on the shoulder, said, "Come on out," and that is not a good sign. Most promising day and weekend gone awry for the youngster from Brazil, Helio Castroneves, who got his breakthrough victory at Detroit. Disappointment at Portland. Disappointment again in Toronto. Cristiano D'Amata at the point, and another car slowing. Maurizio Gugelmin slowly drifting to a stop. So another casualty here in Toronto. It's suddenly starting to become an attrition race. D'Amata, Andretti, Fernandez, Tracy, and Breck at the front, all picking up space on the track. With that happening, that latest turn of events, and there's Oriol Servia. They got him out of the tires, and he's under power, heading back, we would assume, to his pit stall to check the front of that car. Michael Andretti and the leader, D'Amata, on the straightaway. We shuffle back to Fernandez, now in third. There's Gilles de Ferran. Read them off as they go by. Tagliani right there. Carpentier, Moreno, that's 10th and 11th. So Moreno's made it to the points. 9th place is Max Pappas. And there he is. Helio Castroneves is out. of the Penske car. And Oriol Servia coming to the pits as we had anticipated. Working leader lap number 47. See what they do. They're going to... Looks like they're going to change the nose altogether. At least they're making some...
You look, they do the normal service first. They treat it like nothing's wrong. They're programmed to do the exact normal service, fuel it, change all four. Then, if there's any additional work to be done, then they address that.
A shot from inside of turn number 1 as the race leader, Cristiano D'Amato, swings by. There's Michael. And again, it's a two-car fight at the front, separated now by 4 full seconds from the rest, and then Fernandez, Tracy, Brecht-DeFerrin, and the rest of them in a single file column down the long straightaway. The top end speed there at 180 or more. Oriol Servia now has the new nose cone and the service and the fuel on board, and off he goes, but well down in the field. A promising day in terms of a top 5 finish perhaps has gone away. Now he'll just drive the race out. You see the hash mark stripe there. Everybody has to keep 2 wheels to the right of that stripe as they come out of the pits, or they'll get a stop-and-go penalty. Coming back to the pit straight once again to complete lap number 48 is the race leader, Cristiano D'Amato, who has led since lap number 1, save for the shuffle in the pit stops when Fernandez got P1 until he came into the pits.
And you see a little seesaw between D'Amato and Michael Andretti. Michael is closing up on him now. It's not exactly comfortable, but he has a little bit of breathing room.
And you can see Fernandez has pulled away from Paul Tracy, and he's trying to run down the front. And Fernandez is doing that by speeding up. He's spending a little more fuel, perhaps, going 104.5 miles an hour that last lap as opposed to 103.3 for the race leader. Alan Davis, you have more?
We're down in Oriol Servia's pit. As you can see, this is the nose that came off the car following the mishap. All he did was put a new nose on, refuel, and right back out again. So other than the broken nose, Oriol is fine. He's back in.
But well down the list, listed 16th in this race, having run only 45 laps when the leaders have now run 48, nearly 49.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the only person we have fuel information, the guy stopped a little short because of that yellow. So we know that Adrian Fernandez, his team was comfortable they could go 40 laps on the first stint, including on the parade laps at the start. So he might be in a position where he has the luxury of using a little more fuel, and it's showing in lap time, running about a full mile an hour quicker than the 2 front runners.
And let's chart the march of Adrian Fernandez forward. Again, he has outrun the 2 men in front of him by a little bit, almost a mile an hour. So he's gaining on the front, threatening to make it a 3-car fight for the lead in Toronto. But right now, he's got a ways to go. He's still 3 seconds off the pace, but he's running hotter laps than the leaders and trying to pick up some ground. Max Pappas in 7th position, still working on Jimmy Vasser. I don't know if you ever get tired of a fight, but I suppose you could get tired of looking at the same wing in front of you lap after lap and not able to do anything about it.
Yeah, no question about it. There's sometimes you can work on a guy for 40 laps, and during that 40 laps, you might only get 1/2 of a shot, and then wait another 40 for another one. So it can be frustrating. The team can usually sometimes lift you by some of those guys if they do some really bang-up pit work.
And that's the sort of theme that leads to a stat. Nobody from further back than 8th has ever won this race, because if you're 12th, Todd, you've got something?
And I have Helio Castroneves. What was it that put you out so early?
Well, unfortunately, we had a mechanical problem, and it started smell and burning something on the side pot, and then all of a sudden the noise and the speed is going down. Just a shame, you know. Marlboro Team Penske did a very good job this weekend, and this is race.
Obvious disappointment, though.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, after you do all the good job and all weekend, starting from the pole. Was a little bit of wiggle on the end of the straight. I was able to save, and I was having a lot of hard time with the rear tires going away very fast. But other than that, I was having a lot of fun.
Thank you, Helio. We'll return to the Molson Indy on Global.
Standing here next with Mark Blundell, unfortunately out of the Molson Indy 2000 here. First of all, Mark, thank you for your patience. The Motorola crew, another tough day. What happened out there?
Well, at the end, you just cut on us, and we've got no idea why at the moment. We have to get the car back and check it out, but it's a big disappointment. We ran very well in the warm-up, and we expected a lot more.
Obviously, I know you did. You had some good lap times in practice, and as you said, with qualifying as well. Still, you got to be at least optimistic as we get ready for the second half. You've had some better times recently.
Yeah, this moment in time, I'm a little bit despondent about the whole thing, but you know, we'll put our heads down, we'll find the problem, we'll get back ready for next weekend.
Thank you, Mark.
And there you see it. It has become a three-car fight for the lead. Cristiano Damata has it. Michael Andretti and Adrian Fernandez won it. And Fernandez, as we suspected he might, has tracked them down by running about 8 or 10 consecutive faster laps. He just drew them in. He turned up the boost and went after them.
And really pouring the coal to it. And, you know, fuel, he's got extra fuel in hand. That's what this shows me. They are very confident of their strategy. He's able to run a richer setting. Car's working well, and he's closing visually throughout the lap.
Into turn number 3 they go. The leader's in the middle of the corner. Michael tucks in under braking, and there's Adrian Fernandez up the hill, 15-20 degree incline up the hill and through 5. That's where Serbia got in trouble just a few laps ago. He has returned to the race and is a few laps down, but is in 14th position. So his car's running all right. He's cut a couple of positions since then, but he's not going to win the race, and there was a time when he could at least consider that possibility. Coming back to the pit straightaway, this will conclude lap number 60 or 55. The numbers aren't too clear on that monitor up there. Lap 55 and into turn number 1. Let's look at the relative speeds. Now this time, Damata outsteps them all at 103.1, Andretti and Fernandez at 102 and change. So Damata doing a little bit of a speed up that trip through to try and protect his position.
And in terms of where they're gaining their speed, Damata is really quick through the fast section through 10 and 11, coming by the pit straightaway. Michael is really good at the end of the straightaway under braking, but what that does for Damata is it gives him a little breathing room, and he can give it back where he needs to without Michael being up alongside.
That's Paul Tracy. You see the black mark on the nose cone. He touched the back of Michael Andretti's car a while ago. Into the corners they go. This fight between Tracy, Breck, DeFerrin is for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tagliani's in the vicinity as well. Then Jimmy Vasser, Pappas, and Carpentier back to 10. Actually, the players' team is having a decent day. They've got both of them in the top 10 as they wind back toward the front straight. We're in Toronto. It's the Molson Indy on Global Networks, and Cristiano Damata is your race leader. Michael Andretti's success in Canada, 8 of 39 career wins north of the border, 5 in Toronto. He's also won 5 at Milwaukee, and if he were to win today, he could break that tie. His crew in the pits looking on. And, you know, I always wonder about how a team comes together and the consistency involved in the personnel. Well, Peter Gibbons is the engineer on Michael's car. He's been 9 seasons with Mike. He also did Nigel Mansell's car in '93 when Mike was in Formula One. But that means they've been together a long time. And really, that makes a huge difference, I would think.
What it does is it has to do with the communication in terms of degrees. When Michael comes in, Michael, when he screams on the radio, he says stuff, like if he says, this thing's undrivable, it's got a tremendous push. Well, does that mean it's literally undrivable? Peter is able to interpret that and he knows exactly what he means. And so that only comes with time. And he's able to also know Mike's driving style, what weaknesses Michael's driving style exposes in the car, and how to attack those.
So it's an inflection. It's their own shorthand learned over time.
Exactly. It's like a husband and wife.
Damata, Andretti, Fernandez, that's the 3-car serial at the front. Paul Tracy's in contact. He's lapping at 103 miles an hour, the same as the leaders. If he's closing, it's only by inches or feet, not big chunks, but he's at least in contact with the front. When you consider where he came from, you start to consider the possibility of a reprise of Long Beach.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And all of the Canadians really are having the best runs they've had in ages. And you talk about guys being money players. It's not currency here, but it's passion, the hometown, and all those guys have answered the call. And most drivers will tell you, no one puts more pressure on me than I put on myself. And I think it's safe to say they put more pressure on themselves at these events.
On the front straightaway, there's Paul Tracy, then Kenny Breck, Gilles DeFerrin in that 3-car serial, spaced out a little bit. DeFerrin
stays driver's right to the stripe and then starts to move over for the entry into turn number 1. Paul Tracy started well back in the 12th position. He's climbed his way up to 4th and has the leaders in sight. Can he make it a Canadian day in Toronto? We'll see. At the Molson Indy Toronto 2000, is it a 2 or 3 stop race? Well, it looks like a 2-stop strategy for everybody right now. Patience pays points. Roberto Moreno, well, he's been patient. He's moved up through the field into the points, but just barely. Return of the Penske Magic, mixed results. 1 out, 1 in 6th place. Michael Andretti factor, well, he runs 2nd. He's a big factor. Can Team Green rejoin the hunt? Frank Eady out on the opening lap. Paul Tracy's climbed to 4th. Mixed results there, but a promising day for the Canadian certainly, and a promising day for that man as well, Cristiano D'Amata, who has led almost every lap since the beginning, except the round of pit stops for a couple of laps. Michael Andretti not tucked under his rear wing, but right there, and now Adrian Fernandez. And Fernandez kind of left aggression mode behind once he pulled up to those guys and started to just, okay, let's ride with it for a while now that we got here.
And look at Michael close back up big time at the end of the straightaway. I think you have with Fernandez, I think he realized he could expend a lot more fuel and not get anywhere. He's trying to bank some for later. Maybe if he can go longer than these other guys, if he can put in a couple full rich demon laps when he's got a clear track in front of him, that might leapfrog him when he comes out of the pit.
Well, his team was planning 40 laps or so for himself and Moreno, and that included a little bit of help from the yellow, but 2 per 8 in the pace lap at the beginning, so they're getting good mileage.
See, as we go on board with Pappas, you saw Paul Tracy was about to rejoin that 3-car battle. I think that's indicative that D'Amata is maybe kind of holding everyone up here. Here you see Pappas short shift a little bit there, maybe save a little bit of fuel. How much less steering angle he's using than Mark Blundell when we were on board. A little bit more neutral car for Max.
Turn 1 now up through the gearbox and maximum speed on this straightaway. Downshifting to 2nd and through the corner. Now up the hill. You can't really see the hill, but it's uphill. This is turn 5. Now a sweeping right-hander.
Now listen, a little bit quicker throttle response on the Ford engine. Not as much lag. It was noticeable between turns 8 and 9 here. Watch how much quicker the throttle comes on than the Mercedes.
And back up to the front we go. Cristiano D'Amata enjoying a 7/10 of a second lead over Michael Andretti. Translates to about 50 feet on the racetrack, and Fernandez all in single file serial through turn number 1. Here they come. Let's see where Fernandez is, and there's Paul Tracy. He's drawn up right into that bunch, losing contact a little bit. Kenny Brack, he's lost ground to Tracy, and of course the front as well. So Paul breaking away from Breck and trying to join up with these guys as they move through turn number 3. We're working leader lap number 66. We're in Toronto. It's Global Network. Year for the Brazilians in the FedEx Championship, no question about that. Will win number 5 for that country come today? Perhaps it will. Cristiano D'Amata on the point. PPI Motorsports and having a terrific day. Really a good steady day, leading almost all of it. Sometimes that's one of the hard things to break through, one of the hard barriers to accomplish, knowing how to lead a race under heavy pressure from a veteran like Michael Andretti.
And this is a driver who has never won in the series, and also a team who has never won in the series. Little wiggle from D'Amata. You can see that he is giving it everything he has. I don't know why that everyone's queuing up behind him, whether he has a problem with the car or actually fuel concerns greater than the guys behind him. But he's certainly not going to let it get away easily.
2 Canadians in the top 6, by the way, as Michael swings across behind Cristiano D'Amata. That straightaway demands that the drivers move around a little bit just to find a smooth line, because it is bumpy in various spots. So you see them moving back and forth. Sometimes that's just to save their back teeth, because it's a tough ride through there.
I think I just got the answer to my question. You saw Cristiano D'Amata locking the rears, chasing the back end a little bit, coming under braking. The same thing that Elio Castroneves was complaining about. Both Reynard chassis, Michael Andretti in the Lola.
Big wiggle there, and Michael Andretti watching that with keen interest, of course. and he'll know what it means right away as he sizes up the opposition. Michael Andretti, 0.3 of a second behind last trip through, right on top of him this time. Adrian Fernandez holding station. Paul Tracy's drawn up to 2 seconds behind D'Amata, and the top 7 in the field are covered by less than 5 seconds.
Big old power slide by D'Amata. His rear tires are shot. For whatever reason, they're on the same Firestone Firehawks, but Michael is getting much better use out of his. And I think it's only a matter of time before either D'Amata tosses it away or Michael's able to get through.
Well, we're working leader lap number 70, so we're approaching the next pit stop window, and maybe he can hold on by tooth and nail until that moment and get something better underneath.
Slid wide big time there.
He may not have enough time yet.
I mean, as dramatic as it is, he might even have one going soft. I'm not sure, because he's big-time problems in virtually every corner now. And you see the line behind him. He's slowed down considerably. They're down in the 101-mile-an-hour range.
Onto the straightaway they come. The next test for braking will be in turn number 1. Take a look at the weekend numbers for Molson Indy Toronto 2000. Another record, 168,000, including 72.9 today. All you got to do is look out the window and know that. This is a magnificent day and a magnificent crowd. He got through the corner and onto the straightaway. The next test, turn number 3. We'll see that in just a few seconds. Michael moves to the left side. Oh, he lights up the tires, does D'Amata, but he holds the corner barely.
This is a very difficult situation for Michael because he has a battle on both fronts. He wants to get by D'Amata, but he can't leave himself exposed to Fernandez behind. He had a little bit of a breathing room there, allowed him to try the outside, but that gap went away now, and Fernandez is there. So if he doesn't get another gap, he can't afford to do that again, or Fernandez will be up the inside.
Next big braking zone, turn 8 right here. He swings across the concrete into that clean. Now the twisty S back to the front straightaway by the pit entrance. Left-hander and onto the straightaway, and then you got to worry about turn number 1.
And the braking zone is turn 1, especially right as you enter the corner. It's a little bit downhill. The track falls away. So if you're having trouble with the rear brakes, rear tires going away, that'll show up. It'll be accentuated there as the track drops away until you get to mid-corner. The camber comes back to you, and you pick that grip up again.
Good look there at Patrick Carpentier. Alex Tagliani on the straightaway. Into the corner they go. Michael not as close this time, and D'Amata does not light them up. Players team is in the top 10. Both of them, Tagliani in 6th, Patrick Carpentier in the 10th position, and there's Paul Tracy running with the leaders in 4th.
Another huge wiggle out of D'Amata coming up over the hill out of 3 there, and he is giving it everything he has. Michael's got 39 wins. Cristiano has none. Wants his share, so he's not going to give it up without a fight.
Michael working on his 6th victory in Toronto. This will be the conclusion of lap number 72. We understand now that Andretti's team is planning their pit stop at 75. So 3 laps from now, he expects to go into the pits and get his 2nd round of service, and that should clear him to the end.
If I was one of these guys in line, I would consider as soon as my window opened up to the end, even if I could go further, I would probably shortstop it, because a lot of these guys can go quicker than D'Amata's running. And if you could get 2 or 3 laps in, when the shakeup is done, you could maybe pick up 2, 3, 4 positions.
So we have 1 pit stop underway in the pits as they peel them away. That's Luis Garcia Jr. He's running in the 12th position at the moment. So the second round of pit stops is underway. That was the first of those. The contenders remain on course, and we believe that Michael Andretti is just over 2 laps from his scheduled pit stop. Our men in the pits are checking with the other teams to see if they will share their plans with us, so we can anticipate what will be very, very important moments. Alan Davis is standing by at the Andretti pit to take care of that action in a few moments. On the straightaway they come. They stay out. Both of them do, D'Amata and Andretti. The fight rages on. The space officially 0.4 of a second. And looking down to the inside of Vassar was Gilles de Ferran there, but not to be that pass through. It's been pretty stationary in terms of the standings. And now we learn that Cristiano D'Amata is expected into the pits on the next lap. We'll keep an eye on his pit, see if he makes the right turn off turn number 9 instead of continues onto the straightaway. Michael takes a peek down to the inside in 5 and just gave him a look in the mirrors. And now turn number 6.
There's a veritable traffic jam behind D'Amato. Look, you've got like the top 10 cars running nose to tail behind D'Amato.
Well, he's got him down 3 miles an hour from the quicker laps just a little while ago. They're just over 100 miles an hour on the average with a light fuel load. But his tires apparently are gone, and here he comes. He peels off for his pit stop. Michael continues on as we thought he might. Cristiano D'Amato down to 50 miles an hour, the pit road speed limit, and his team is ready for him, and Todd Lewis is as well.
Cristiano D'Amato pulls along pit road. He hits the sign and brings it to a stop. He held on as long as he could, but they will change the rubber. Don't see any signs of front wing adjustments as yet. No, they throw the guns across. No changes to the wing. They're just waiting on fuel now before they send Cristiano D'Amato out. He should be good to go the rest of the way.
So out he comes. Kenny Breck went in. Max Pappas also went in on that lap, and Michael Andretti cleared the stripe in the lead. Fernandez stayed out, so did Tracy, so did Tagliani, so did Vassar, so did DeFerrin, so did Carpentier, and so did Moreno. So they're listed as the top 8, but they owe the race a pit stop, and it will shuffle back at least a little bit, and we'll get the comparative results of all the pit stops in a moment or two.
Now, here's usually the way it works out. These guys are on light fuel load, but the tires have degraded to the point where they are a long ways off the pace. If those guys who stopped early can get in 103, 104 mile an hour lap, they might be able to make up the difference and leapfrog. Alan?
We're here, Michael Andretti, and it looks like it's just going to be fuel and tires. Michael, as you know, if things are going well, he will not say a thing, and he has been very, very quiet. Tires are on, fuel is complete, and Michael is away.
Also coming in that trip, we had Tagliani and DeFerrin staying out still. Fernandez, we thought he might take the longest segment. Tracy stayed out. Vassar stayed out, but they've laid out for him. We see his crew ready for him, Carpentier and Moreno. So the shuffling continues as the sequence of pit stops unfolds. Michael Andretti gave up the lead after 1 lap. Fernandez is the leader.
But he is back in front. He's back in front on cold tires. D'Amato's up to speed, but Michael was able to get by.
So Michael Andretti got the exchange of position in the pits, and Oriol Servia is also right there with them, but he is well down in the standings after the off earlier in turn number 5. Tracy is in, Vassar is in, so they peel off, and Adrian Fernandez has stayed out. So Michael's in front of Cristiano D'Amato, but Fernandez still leads the race. He's still on course, still needs a pit stop.
So now if the same thing holds true that got Michael in front of Cristiano, that extra lap clear track up to speed with warm tires, the same thing should hold true for Fernandez.
Paul Tracy's gotten his service. Moreno, Carpentier stayed out. So Fernandez, Carpentier, and Moreno were down to 3 that owe the race a pit stop. And it looks as though Jimmy Vassar's having a little trouble getting it rolling after he came out of the pits, but I think he has gotten it going now. And
Paul Tracy in the lead, but on cold tires, Michael gets by. Paul cuts across the bow, and D'Amato is going to try to fight like heck to keep his spot.
Paul Tracy comes out in the midst of those runners trying to pick up a position, but D'Amato is going to hold him off. Oriol Servia is running with them there, and again, we remind you, he's not a factor. Did he touch again? That's the same position Paul Tracy was in against Michael earlier on in the race. This time, he was tucked up beneath the rear wing of Cristiano D'Amato. I don't know if they touched that time, but it was awfully, awfully close. Now, in that serial, Michael has the advantage in terms of track position, but the race leader still is Adrian Fernandez, with Moreno still in second place officially on the scoreboard because they have stayed out. They're separated from this fight by a half a racetrack because they did stay out.
Here's where that fuel bank that Fernandez has built up could pay off. You saw Paul Tracy went from 4th all the way to the lead track position-wise. By the time he got his tires up to temp, he had fallen back to 3rd, but you can expect the same thing from Fernandez. So that conservation, the better mileage he's getting, is allowing him to run unimpeded. I would expect he'll be out solidly in front if they get a comparable pit stop. The question is, will he be able to get his tires up to temp before the other guys get by?
Adrian Fernandez approaching pit in. Is he going in? Yes, he is. He makes the right turn, so he will give up the lead. Will his teammate Moreno follow him? We'll check on that. Meantime, we go to Todd Lewis.
In the Adrian Fernandez pit, they wave the sign, waiting for Adrian to bring the car along in and hit the marks. He's moving towards his pit box. The crew kneels down and awaits the car and awaits for Adrian Fernandez, his second and final stop. Tires start to come off, the fuel going in on Adrian Fernandez's stop. He won this race in 1996. Perhaps by staying out and getting better fuel mileage, he'll be able to make it his second win. No adjustments to the front, fuel in, he's off.
And the other lead pack should be coming down the straightaway. Will he get out in time?
He's out solidly in front of Michael.
Yep.
But the question, Michael on hot tires again, you're going to see Adrian being pretty defensive here, but if Michael's on hot tires, should be able to get around under braking.
So on the straightaway, fresh tires beneath the Tecate machine. Michael Andretti all over the back of him. He's trying to find a way around. He's got his tires warmed up. Can he go deeper? You bet he can. Michael Andretti sweeps by Adrian Fernandez into the third turn. Now, Roberto Moreno has completed lap 78 and is still listed in the lead of this race, but Michael Andretti effectively is P1. It may take a couple of laps before Moreno goes to the pits, before Michael gets credit for leading, but nonetheless, he has the... well, here he comes. Moreno has peeled off, and he's going into his pit stall, so we'll see how this plays out as the leaders of the race move through the twisty bits, and Moreno works on the front straightaway in his pit stall. He has completed lap number 79, so we'll just keep an eye on the straightaway and see which cars come by. Michael Andretti has gone by into turn number 1. There's Adrian Fernandez. Here comes Moreno. He's going to tuck in a pretty good spot right behind the lead serial. So he has done a magnificent job of moving up into the field, but it is going to be Michael Andretti, the race leader, and that will be confirmed on the scoreboard. Next pass by, Moreno got credit for the lap and the race lead on 79. D'Amata loses it in 3 and gives up the position to Paul Tracy. It's going to be Michael Andretti, Fernandez, D'Amata, and Tracy in a shootout. We'll be back.
Labor Day weekend, Global Television presents the 11th annual Molson Indy 2000 live from Vancouver. Don't miss a single lap as world-class drivers like Michael Andretti, Dario Franchitti, and Paul Tracy get set to take on the demanding Vancouver track at up to 300 clicks an hour. For the inside track on the race, visit the Indy website at molsonindy.com. To see the smoke, smell the rubber, and feel the power, call 604-280-INDY for your tickets. The Vancouver Molson Indy 2000. Global's got it Labor Day weekend.
Welcome back to Global Network coverage of the Molson Indy Toronto 2000. Round number 2 of the pit stops has been concluded, and all the shuffling of position that occurs when you have a round of pit stop is done. That man, Michael Andretti, after 81 laps, now 82, is the race leader, followed by Adrian Fernandez, Paul Tracy in third, then Cristiano D'Amata and Roberto Moreno. Tagliani, Breck, DeFerrin, Carpentier, and Pappas rounds out the top 10. Jimmy Vasser runs 11th, then Luis Garcia Jr. Those are the men in the points. Oriol Servia, 2 laps down, runs 13th. 13 cars left in the field, and look at the space that Michael has created between first and second, between himself and Adrian Fernandez.
This makes Michael's drive all the more impressive. That tells me he was bottled up the entire race, and that move he made on warm tires to get by Adrian, that is do or die. If he gets stuck behind Adrian, Adrian can probably hold him off to the end, but he really forced the issue, went around the outside, chopped back across the front. That move could have won him this race.
Max Pappas trying to hold on to 10th position under attack from Jimmy Vasser, who once again has had a pretty steady year. He's in the points, but he's not right now considered a massive championship contender, but a good, solid, calm pro is Jimmy Vasser.
Yeah, he is, and he's the only other guy right now in the field with the sister cars out running the Lola chassis. And if Michael's any indication, that Lola is working, not seeming to have the same sort of trouble under braking that the Reynards are.
There's Gilles DeFerrin running in the 8th position. He's won a couple of races this year. Had a difficult weekend to some degree, particularly in comparison to his teammate Elio Castroneves, although he was reasonably well qualified, and he's driven a very fine heady race as well to at least give himself a chance to get some significant points, something out of Toronto.
Yeah, these guys, though, at this point, look, yeah, you see Jimmy all over the back.
Michael Andretti continues to roll out in front, 3.2 seconds in front. He's won here 5 times, and a couple of years ago, he learned about fitness and how important it is.
The fact of getting older and wanting to, and seeing what the competitions, what's happening with the competition, they're getting younger, and they're all fit. You know, these guys are really fit out here. They work out hard, and you know, the competition is becoming so close that you have to do every little bit you can to try to keep that edge, and that's what I basically figure I got to do this. And it's a big commitment. I mean, you know, it's like a couple hours every day just pounding it and killing yourself. But, you know, as long as I keep seeing the results, I'm going to keep doing it.
That's D'Amata trying to hold on to 4th position against Roberto Moreno, the points leader for the FedEx Championship this year, trying to pick up another position. He's well into the points, as we thought he might be before day's end. Back to the fitness theme, Tom, for just a minute. You know, Michael, I guess he didn't discover it just lately, but he really, over the last several years, got very serious about it. And this is the point of a race on a hot day, whether the car's working well or not, where that becomes very important.
Well, as the field has gotten older, a lot of guys have fallen off the screen. Got a lot of experienced champions, and here you have Michael Andretti says, I'm not willing to accept that. There's nothing I can do about my age, but there is something I can do about my fitness. And he's done it. You can talk about it all you want, but you got to get in the job and bang it out, and he's done it. He's in great shape.
Well,
he used to be pudgy when he was younger.
I conducted that conversation with Mike, and he said freely, he said, if my dad had done what I'm doing now, he'd have gotten 2 or 3 more years out of it. And he's talking about a pretty impressive career to begin with.
Yeah, no question about it. Here you have Moreno trying to get by D'Amata. D'Amata's really struggling at the end of these straightaways.
That was through turn number 3. D'Amata held the preferred line and was able to hold on to the position up the hill. But it looks like it's only a matter of time before Roberto Moreno slides by him into 4th position. Andretti leads it. Fernandez 2nd. Tracy 3rd. We'll be back. Chris McClure along with Tommy Kendall. This is Molson Indy Toronto 2000. And the man on the point, it's a familiar sight in Toronto, is Michael Andretti. There's 2nd place, Adrian Fernandez, struggling at this time to maintain contact with the faster Michael Andretti, who is lapping at 104.5 miles an hour. He's the first car in the race able to turn in laps like that. And as you mentioned, Tom, he had a faster car than he showed earlier simply because he was bottled up. Now he's showing us his stuff.
We talked about patience at the opening of the show in relation to Moreno and how important that is. Early in his career, Michael Andretti and patience would not have been used in the same sentence. This just shows the maturity. He's got the fitness to keep up with the young guys, but his experience is really starting to show.
Cristiano D'Amata, does he have a problem? He's been backing up lately. Todd, have you checked that out?
Have double-checked with the team. They keep trying to check with him on the radio. He's not telling them about any problem. He just seems to be feeling the pressure from Roberto Moreno. But Cristiano D'Amato not reporting any problems with the car at this time.
Good look there at Paul Tracy running in 3rd. A little bit of a wiggle into turn number 8 in the vicinity of Tagliani, I think that was. Or was that Patrick Carpentier? No, that's Tagliani right up on the tail of Roberto
Moreno. Has a problem. He's falling back from D'Amata.
Yep, and Gilles de Ferran also joining that fight. Tagliani takes a look down to the inside in turn number 1 as he forced onto the curb. He has to back out and get in behind Roberto Moreno. Well, Moreno was all over D'Amata for a while, and suddenly he's backing up and fighting for 5th place against the Canadian, Alex Tagliani, the rookie, the top-ranked rookie in this field at this point, in 6th position. This is a pretty nice Toronto debut for him, by the way. Gilles de Ferran right there, and also Patrick Carpentier and Max Pappas and Vassar also in the serial. That's a big, tight clutch of cars fighting for essentially 5th place.
Moreno does have a problem. He ran real wide in turn 3, ran wide in turn 4, wide here through 6. Some sort of a problem. You can see them all queued up behind him.
Now the question is, I suppose, how wide can he make the car? Not wide enough for Tagliani. That's turn 8. Alex is underneath him. Gilles de Ferran now going to take a look on the other side. Can he get through? Not quite. He's heavily up onto the curbing there as Moreno came across his bow. But something is off on the car. There he goes. Turns to the right. Patrick will come ripping by as well. Moreno just gives room to everybody on the straightaway, conceding all those positions after fighting his way from a terrible qualifying position all the way to 5th place. His day has gone awry, apparently. Onto the straightaway they go. He's struggling to keep a hold of the car, but he simply can't do it. The points leader may wind up well without any points today. At the Molson Indy Toronto 2000 fuel strategy, 2 stops for everybody. Somebody may need a splash, but we don't think so. Patience pays points. Well, Moreno played it beautifully, but his car may have betrayed him. He's been falling backward in the last couple of moments. Return of the Penske Magic, 6th and out. Mixed results there. Michael Andretti factor Qualified third, running first, pulling away from everybody. That's a big factor. Can Team Green rejoin the hunt? Well, Paul Tracy has. Dario Franchitti retired in the first lap. But what a day for Paul Tracy. We'll see the separation between he and Adrian Fernandez there. But this is a fellow who led the points through the first part of the season, went third, first, and third in the first 3 races, and hasn't scored a point since Nazareth. That encompasses 4 races. He's been stuck on 59 points for that length of time. If he makes the podium, he's got to breathe a sigh of relief, even though you surely know he must want to win.
Yes, I mean, this answers the question. He came back, but he did it in a very, very smart fashion. He obviously wants to win, but a solid third-place points. Moreno's coming back to him with his problem. Michael Andretti obviously is the guy he's focused on more immediately, points-wise. And this is going to close things up considerably and put Team Cool Green back on the map.
Alex Tagliani is in 5th, Patrick Carpentier in 7th, and Alan Davis is with their team.
Obviously, they're very pleased so far, guys. They have not said much from the cars. Alex Tagliani did not have a good weekend, as you know, getting ready for this race. But so far, this is reminding me an awful lot of Detroit, where he made his way through some traffic and found himself in the hunt.
Well, he's not in the hunt for the lead right now, 18 seconds away from that. But he may be able to close down on Cristiano D'Amata. It's about 6 seconds between the two since they got around Moreno, and that logjam kind of separated and broke off. Tagliani indicated he might be able to track down D'Amata and fight for 4th, but now he's lost a little ground in the last few laps, so that may be a seesaw battle, and with the laps starting to dwindle down, it may be too much to ask.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Michael Andretti, though, he's kind of settled into a rhythm. He's still running in the 104-mile-an-hour range. I venture to say he's got more left. He's settled into a pattern, can run these laps all day long. Not a whole lot faster than Fernandez at the moment, but he's got himself a nice gap.
A little bit of good news. If they stay green, we stay here. Michael Andretti, the leader, completing lap 95 and into turn number 1. We will bring you uninterrupted coverage through to the checkered flag from this point. And look at Michael, his last lap, 104.5 again. He was the first one to break that barrier. Fernandez has recently joined him at 104 and change, but still losing about 0.4 of a second per lap.
And now you see Fernandez starting to put a little distance on Paul Tracy as well, starting to string out a little bit here at the front. D'Amata, although reports of no problems, he's definitely lost contact with the lead 3.
Well, track observers now are beginning to comment on Roberto Moreno's car. There's a wisp of an odor in the air when he passes by, and veterans are saying it's something to do with the gearbox.
Well, gear lube has a very distinctive smell, and there was, when he pulled over and let those cars by coming before turn 1, it looked like there was a little bit of a wisp kind of in the back in the turbulence behind the car, and that does have a distinctive odor. So now he's in a race. He's happy, you know, if he can just limp her home. Well, he's out of the points now anyway, so you know, he'll try to run it and hope for some attrition, but a lot of work for nothing for Roberto at this point.
Of course, his closest competitor in terms of the championship lead coming up to the halfway point of the season is that man, Michael Andretti. Michael arrived in Toronto 22 points behind. He couldn't catch Roberto once he didn't win pole.
Roberto Moreno has exactly the problem you guys were speaking about. It is his transmission. He is going to try and limp it home and gain as many championship points as possible.
But that's a remote possibility now. I think that if he backs up or has to stop, he'll give up all the points possibilities on the day. But back to the points theme, if Moreno scores 1 or 2 or none, Mike is going to be within 2 or 3 or 4 going to Michigan to start the second half.
On the worst case scenario coming into this weekend, they're living it. This is the worst possible scenario. Michael having a perfect weekend, 1 short of max points perhaps, didn't get the pole, but if it carries on like this, we've got ourselves you know, halfway through the season and a whole cluster of cars right in the mix.
Interesting perspective from the front of Max Pappas' car as it comes through turn number 11, the left-hander there. That used to be blind all the way through because they moved the wall back a long time ago. At least there's some vision through that corner for the drivers because it's a tough corner.
Well, yeah, that's where we've had some big wrecks. Brian Herta shattered his pelvis there. Emerson Fittipaldi has said that he believes that is the toughest corner in the world. And from a guy, everyone has their own favorites, but or least favorites, but Emerson should know a thing or two about that.
Adrian Fernandez trailing Michael Andretti now 3.886 seconds the last time through. Both of them slowed down just a little bit. Luis Garcia Jr. back into the pits. and getting some late race service. He is currently in 12th position, but they're going to make sure he can get through to the end. There's a champion, there's a point at stake here, perhaps, if he can catch up with Roberto Moreno. Now, earlier, he had some trouble, and he has fallen a couple of laps off the lead. But if Moreno falters or stops, he can pick up one more space up the track. So you might as well just make sure and drive out the race and see what you can do with it.
I'm sure if you ask those guys, they'll just let it play out as it is. There's Mario checking the watch. He's got to feel pretty good about things. Michael, you know, the mechanical being the only wild card, but Michael's got things pretty well in hand.
So Mario Andretti standing on the pit wall, watching his son Michael in search of his 40th career victory and 6th in Toronto. Is there another generation? Perhaps it's in the genes.
I can't explain it, but I think it's a combination of things. I think one is you have to be born with something. You know, I look at my son, for instance, when he was very young. When he got on a four-wheeler, the control he had, it's like, wow, you know? You see anybody else at 3 or 4 years old get on there, they're just totally out of control. But he had control. He knew what he needed to do. He just had to feel. So you need that. You got to be born with that. But then there's more to it. Then there's going to be the heart. You got to have the heart and the drive inside. And so, you know, I guess you're born with that, and maybe you're even brought up that way. You know, if things are too easy when you're growing up, maybe you don't have that. You know, you become weaker in that way. You don't have that drive and stuff, or hunger. So, you know, I guess it's a little bit of the upbringing, and it's a little bit of being born with it.
Well, if you're looking at that checklist, Michael has it in spades. He's definitely born with it, and he's got the heart of a lion. 39 years old, kind of remade his career, decided to really get in shape, and now he's driving like he's 21.
Watching Max Pappas there, who is working in the vicinity of Jimmy Vasser, driving it on home. He's got a couple of black marks scattered around the car. He's used a lot of racetrack here a little bit today, especially on the nose. We saw that point of view camera a little while ago. He's picked up a little bit of debris across the front in the course of this event. Michael Andretti nursing along at 3.840 seconds against Adrian Fernandez. That's remained fairly stationary. Both of them under 104 miles an hour, not running the laps they were a little while ago as the tires begin to show some of the wear, at least. Pappas on the straightaway, and there he is stopping now. We heard about the problem in the gearbox as a potential explanation for Roberto Moreno backing off, and now he comes to a stop. A hugely disappointing moment for him, the points leader, after he had climbed all the way to 5th. I guess there's some solace in knowing that he does still go to the second half of the year in the Michigan race in the lead regardless.
Well, that's the maybe slight silver lining. So, but to go from where he went from the maiden first pole, first win to DNF, different kinds of tears right now for Roberto Moreno.
Currently listed in 11th, but Luis Garcia Jr., who's now just 1 lap behind Moreno, is listed in 12th. And Serbia is a couple of laps further back than that, but they're running so they can push him out of the points altogether if they drive to the conclusion of the event. Cristiano D'Amata making a pass through 3 there. He led most of the first 2/3 of the race, but is now back in 4th position and apparently unable to do anything about it. There's Alex Tagliani in the 5th position, still 8 seconds behind D'Amata, so he hasn't been able to close down on the young Brazilian since that exchange when Moreno dropped out of the serial and let everybody go at their own pace. So D'Amata, who was struggling in the first part of this run, has apparently settled down, at least against those behind him.
Kind of found his levels. The guys that were quicker did get by and have proceeded to move out, but he was definitely, even with his troubles, able to hold that gap and even pull out a little bit on Alex. Now back at the front with Michael, one of the things as far as holding that 3.8 as a driver, on one hand you can argue it both ways. You want to keep digging so that you buy yourself some cushion in case you have a problem, but from a traffic standpoint, there really aren't that many cars left in the race at this point, so you want to have a little bit of a time bank so that if you get into traffic you can pick your spot and not in a real rush to get by. But 3.8 seconds is more than enough, especially knowing you have some speed in hand over Fernandez.
Jimmy Vassar in close quarter drill with Luis Garcia Jr. They are not in that close quarter drill in terms of the race. Garcia is a lap or two further back, so it's not a battle for position there. There's Michael Andretti working leader lap 104 of the scheduled 112 here in Toronto in search of his 6th Toronto victory. Just a remarkable record for him. And Adrian Fernandez, who was victorious here in 1996, has won a race this year as well, scoring significant points. A beautiful drive for him. Affable Mexican fellow who next year gets to race in front of the home fans with the scheduling of the race down in Monterey.
And that's a big move for CART, because living in Southern California, going to the Fontana race, there is a huge contingent of Mexican fans that come up from south of the border to cheer Adrian on. And it's nice for them to get a race of their own. And he is already a big-time hero down in Mexico, and being the only guy, he carries the flag for all of them down there. And I know he's excited, very involved outside the car in terms of business stuff, working with his sponsors. So he will be the big-time king down in Mexico City.
They came into this event in 11th in the championship with 45 points. So this is a significant pickup for him in position right now to score 16 additional points. He's had a reasonable year in terms of his ability to get to the end. 3 DNFs, 1 by contact, and that's out, and it's going to be 3 DNFs out of 10 races. That's reasonable about what you could expect given all the vagaries of racing. That's not too bad.
Yeah, and this is a pretty classic Jim McGee engineered race. You've seen it over and over and over with the Patrick team. Nothing spectacular, not a lot of blinding speed on the racetrack in terms of bold moves around the outside like a Montoya, but at the end of the day, that 100 wins that Jim McGee has is not an accident.
And Paul Tracy, of course, running in third on his way to the podium, it would appear, as we work leader lap 105. The countdown underway with leader Michael Andretti in front of Adrian Fernandez by 5.3. Take a look at Michael's totals: 35 wins, 30 poles, 86 to 96, 3 wins and 2 poles over the last couple of seasons. It's gotten a little rarer that he steps to the top step, but he's still pretty racy, as we've been discussing over the last few moments.
There's been a couple of times that they, you know, when he was with the Swift chassis, kind of lost years for Michael. Now that they're back in a competitive package, that one year when he had the Ford engine, when it was not on par with the Honda, still had 5 big wins. When guys like Robbie Gordon were kicking the engine cover and so forth, Michael was just clicking off wins. So now that he has what I'm sure he feels is a much better package, he's right in the thick, trying to, much like Dale Earnhardt is in NASCAR, trying to get another championship under the belt and running the best he has in years.
About to put 106 laps into the book. We saw Luis Garcia Jr. in the runoff there with some track workers, and I think safety team personnel on hand pushing him. He has moved to 11th. He may slip to 12th before it's done, but by going as long as he did, he helped to officially relegate Moreno to 13th and out of the points. And now Garcia will finish 12th as a DNF, but he'll get a point out of the day. Michael Andretti, 4.3 seconds ahead of Fernandez, 9 ahead of Tracy, so it's really running out the miles with 6 to go. Patrick Carpentier and Alex Tagliani remain in 5th and 7th. And we've heard Neil Mickelwright, the general manager of that team this year, talk long and hard about the talent of these fellows. They're a little bit different in style and temperament, but both, I think, have the support and confidence of the team. And Patrick Carpentier, car 32, he's top 5 in 5 of the last 6 races. And he missed part of the season with an injury suffered at home. He had to kind of reacclimate himself to the series and the season. He's doing just fine.
Yeah, no question about it. And Tagliani had to recover from that crushing mistake he made very close to his first win at Rio de Janeiro, and could have responded one of 2 ways. You know, he really could have let it get to him and tried pressing harder, but really kind of regrouped, owned up to it big time, which is hard to do, broke his heart undoubtedly. At that point, he probably thought, oh, this is going to be easy. There'll be plenty more like that, but I think he's realizing that those are going to be few and far between, but he's going about it the right way, not pushing too hard, not making any mistakes, and earning his stripes, getting some experience.
And right away, Neil Mickelwright, the general manager, was asked, you know, what does this do to the guy's confidence? And he said, I believe he's resilient. resilient. I believe he can refocus in an instant. I have no problem with what happened other than the result. But as far as he's concerned, he's going to handle it, and he has.
You wonder, sometimes guys can explain that stuff away and really not take the opportunity to learn from that mistake. But in hearing Alex talk, I think he did that. He thought about it, felt the pain, rather than dismissing it and blaming it on something like it. You know, he did have a little bit of a problem with the tire. Had been dominant, wasn't as dominant, felt he needed to push harder. He admits freely that he pushed too hard and it was all on his shoulders, which is the sign of growth and the ability to learn from your mistakes.
Into the 109th lap of 112 is Michael Andretti on the straightaway. He's got it all to himself now. There was a yellow flag being held over the wall there by a worker. Luis Garcia Jr. was down there in 3. That's where he encountered the difficulty a little while ago. Although I had been told he had continued. I'm not sure what that yellow was for, unless maybe there was some debris out there or something. What do you think?
Couldn't see anything.
Anyway, he went pouring through there, did Michael. And he's coming up to the conclusion of lap 109. The countdown in terms of laps will be at 3 at that moment. Almost a perfect day for Michael Andretti. A couple of years ago, he was in this position in the late going, but he had Alex Zanardi closing on him and gave it up. What'd you see there?
I'm not sure if that was, maybe, is that Michael's son? We're on Marco. We're in summertime. I don't know if that's Marco. I know his son is just starting to race go-karts and so forth, so it'd be about that age, standing behind Mario doing the big prayer.
Well, back in the East where he's raced go-karts, he's been winning and he's leading the championship last I knew, but this might be a week off, and it would be expected that he'd be here. The lead for Michael, incidentally, is out to 5.6 seconds. Adrian Fernandez following along. He's got 109 laps in. It's another 5 seconds back to Paul Tracy, so plenty of space and open track for all of them. See, the racetrack looks pretty good. We had talked about the harder compound, the same compound that Firestone took to Long Beach and Detroit. Part of the objective of a harder compound was to minimize as much as possible the marbling. There is some marbling out there, but not what we had seen in recent years.
For the new viewers, the marbling is the tires with the really soft tire. You want, the softer it is, the more grip you have, but it peels off little bits of rubber and they form on the outside. You can see them up against the wall there, and you see it on the straightaway offline, and it is just like it sounds. When you get on there, they lift the tires off the road and there's virtually no grip offline. There you see the marbles on the left side of the track, so there still are some marbles, but not on the order of it was when they had the tire war going on.
No, a couple of years ago, this track was down to a single lane racetrack about halfway through. They did sweep it under a yellow halfway through, but they didn't have to consider that today. And to me, that's good news. The wider the available pavement is, the better for everyone.
On one hand, you want it to be an open platform for competition amongst the tire companies. You could argue pretty strongly that a one-brand tire make series is better for competition.
About a lap and a half to go for Michael Andretti as he comes back around to conclude lap 111. Here he comes through 10. Here he comes through 11 onto the straightaway. He sees the white flag. He's in the final lap. 1.755 miles to go for Michael Andretti before he claims career victory number 40, Toronto victory number 6, Canada victory number 9. What numbers those are? 9 out of 40 in Canada. He'll step up to the microphone in a while and declare once again, with verve I would suppose, I just love Canada. Second place, Adrian Fernandez. He's through the corner. Then there's Paul Tracy. He's into his final lap. Cristiano D'Amata will not claim his first victory today, but he will run very well just off the podium in 4th position, all things being equal for the next 40 seconds or so. Michael Andretti down to turn number 8. Just a couple of flicks of the wrist left, and he'll have Jim Swintel in sight. Left flick, right flick, left flick, up through the gearbox one more time. Michael Andretti charges the line, and he claims victory in Toronto. What a drive, what a day for Newman Haas Racing on the Michael Andretti side. Onto the straightaway they come. Adrian Fernandez for 2nd, Paul Tracy for 3rd. That will be the podium. A great drive for result for Paul Tracy as well. Congratulations for Mario Andretti, a happy father certainly, down in that Newman Haas pit. That was a great perfectly executed day for Michael Andretti. But most of the time, we expect nothing less.
I'll tell you what, there are a lot of drivers in this series that would trade their career record for Michael Andretti's record here in Canada.
Yep. And there they are, the top three getting in formation. Paul Tracy threads his way through to give a wave to Mike, a congratulatory wave, and now he'll drop back and let Mike enjoy the moment in front of the crowd with the waves in a solo single file run around the course one more time. Terrific job by Michael Andretti and engineer Peter Gibbons, Don Hovel. 260th race of Michael's career. 5 wins here, 5 wins in Milwaukee, so that tie is dispatched as well. Cristiano D'Amata did get the 4th place. Then 5th goes to Alex Tagliani. Gilles de Ferran saves the Penske pride a little bit with a 6th place run. Carpentier in 7th, and Max Pappas on behalf of Rahal Racing in 8th position. Jimmy Vasser carried the colors of Target Chip Ganassi from the beginning in the 9th spot. Then Kenny Brack, Oriol Servia, and Luis Garcia Jr. The points leader, Roberto Moreno, up as high as 5th. Now back to 13th. That's where he rests.
And when you win your first races, you think that it's going to continue indefinitely. Well, for Michael Andretti, it has been so far. But later in your career, the victories are all the more sweeter. And these victory laps, when you go around, you really take it all in. He's got quite a following here in Canada. And like you said, I think he's going to get out and he might give up his citizenship. And, although then he's.
Billy Camphausen directs them into echelon formation as the 3 top runners check in, and we're going to meet Michael and get his comments in just a couple of moments. You hear in the background the cheers of the crowd as they come to a stop and the engines turn off. It's a bit of a chore getting out of a car anymore with all the connections they have these days. They have pretty sophisticated helmets and so on. A big shake of the fist there. Michael Andretti, by the way, is the second 2-time winner in this season. And we now have 8 winners in 10 races, and that still signifies a very, very deep field, a great level of competition. Paul Tracy climbing out. In honor of Greg Moore, he wore Greg Moore's helmet colors and design today, and he brought it home 3rd in memory of his friend. Alan Davis has joined Paul Tracy. Alan?
You can see Paul is getting all the congratulations necessary. Paul, obviously for you, a tough weekend. You battled all weekend long. You got to be happy to see sitting here on the podium here today.
I'm really happy. I want to thank all the Canadian fans for coming out. My name's Paul, and I'm Canadian.
That's Race Day Tracy, everyone. Paul, you did battle the car all weekend, and yesterday you talked about working on the camera in your backup car. Obviously, you learned something late in that round. What was it?
Well, we're a race team. We're not the best qualifying team, but we come alive in the race. I had some damage on the first restart when I passed Gilles on the back straightaway. I hit the wall, so we had some damage to the right front, but you know, we were able to just nurse it all day and pick up a podium. And I want to thank Rick Moore and my friend Greg Moore for allowing me to wear the helmet of his. And we love you, Greg.
2 podiums, 2 years. Paul Tracy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great moment for Paul Tracy, and the sentiment for Greg Moore, of course, killed so tragically at Fontana at the end of last season. The helmet he wore was placed for auction at the gala the other evening, Thursday evening here in Toronto, with the proceeds destined to the Greg Moore Foundation. And they picked up $45,000 for that. Now, Todd's with Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti, it's been a long time since 1995, but welcome back as a winner in Toronto.
Thank you. It's great to do it here in Toronto, my 40th win, and to do it the way we did it, it was just perfect. The whole Kmart Texel Haviland team did a great job. The 4-8 engine was just perfect today, and you know, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Is it Canada or is it the Molson that helps you win?
I don't know. Maybe it's in the water. I don't know. It was something, but I love it. I love Toronto. I love all the fans here. They're great. They're the best, and just love being here.
He definitely loves Toronto. This is now his winningest track with 6 wins. Let's go back upstairs.
Paul Newman in the background there with a congratulatory handshake for Michael Andretti, and you know, he comes up with fresh material each and every time because he's had 9 opportunities now to make a victorious speech here in Canada, but you cannot underestimate the talent of the man. Paul Newman there again was standing next to Mike. He's very, very happy, and he joins in the festivities. He enjoys it each and every time. Michael Andretti, the winner. Fernandez second. Then Tracy D'Amata Tagliani will be back with closing notes from the Molson Indy Toronto 2000.
So, Molson Indy 2000 is in the books on Global. What a surprise. Michael Andretti, win number 6. They're going to have to change that commercial to I Am Andrettian. He's dominating Canada the way no other driver ever has, of course. And a great run for Paul Tracy, too. Worked his way up from 12th on the starting grid. Finally back in the points for the first time in 5 races as he finishes 3rd. At one point, was just a second and a half off the lead. But once Michael took the lead, just after lap 34, caught Adrian Fernandez on hot tires, went around him on turn 3. It was all Michael Andretti as he wins it going away. Man, he's so Canadian, he even owns part of a hockey team, so you got to love the guy. Michael Andretti will be back to receive the official recognition as our race winner as the Molson Indy, live from Exhibition Place in Toronto, continues with post-race ceremonies in just a moment. Welcome back to Victory Lane at Molson 2000, Molson Indy 2000. Tommy Kendall has joined us. Tommy, about the only thing you could fault Michael for today was maybe lack of suspense. Once he got the lead, there was no question who was going to win the race.
That makes the early part of the race all the more impressive to me. To exhibit the patience he did, I said it during the telecast, Michael was not known for patience. There were so many times you'd say he had that race, he threw it away by being too aggressive. That was his nature. Here, very, very impressive race for that reason.
All right, we're ready for the ceremonies over at the podium. 4th podium finish for Michael Andretti and company. Let's join Paul Hendrick of Molstar.
Moments, but what a day for Michael Andretti. His 6th career victory here in Toronto, 40th overall. And for Carl Haas and Paul Newman, their 57th career victory since entering the Kart FedEx Championship Series back in 1982. For Adrian Fernandez as well, 1996, he the champion here and finally back on the podium after 4 very tough years, but he is indeed back on the red carpet here in Toronto. We're now prepared for the official opening ceremonies, or at least a victory podium ceremonies here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you will turn your attention to the track, we have a very special delivery to tell you about. Making her way to the winner's circle is FedEx courier Cheryl Foster. They're about to deliver a very important package, the Molson Indy Winner's Trophy, to Michael Andretti. And it just goes to show you, whether your destination is across the country, around the world, or even just around the track, FedEx will help you be absolutely sure your package arrives on time. He is back on the podium for the 2nd consecutive year, a former winner here in 1993 from Team Cool Green. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of West Hill, Ontario, Paul Tracy. Congratulations, Paul. You talk about a roller coaster first half of the season for you, but you're back up on top of the hill as we reach the midway point.
Well, I tell you, it's a great feeling to be racing here in front of my hometown and have everybody support me. I especially want to thank Rick Moore and his family for allowing me to wear Greg's helmet in the race, and that gave me extra motivation to do well. And I want to thank my sponsors, Cool, Firestone Honda, and my crew guys for doing such a great job in the pit lane and getting me up there during the pit stops. And the weekend turned out great for us.
You're a West Hill native. We've got a presenter from Pickering, certainly not far from there, from the Toronto Maple Leafs, to present Paul with the 3rd place trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, goaltender Glenn Healy.
Congratulations. Yeah, great to see. I live in Ajax.
Paul Tracy, ladies and gentlemen, 2nd straight year on the podium, back-to-back 2nd and 3rd place finishes. As mentioned, in 1996, Adrian Fernandez would win here in Toronto. He battled hard today and is back on the podium once again. From Mexico City, Team Tecate, Adrian Fernandez. Adrian, felicidades and congratulations. Gracias. And, you know, you had to look at that race today. It was a matter of running hard, but certainly running clean, and you did exactly that.
Yeah, it was a hard race for everybody. The pace was very strong. At the beginning of the race, we managed to do some good passes. We were holding the fastest pace at the beginning of the race, but then we catch the pack, And then the other guys catch us, and that's when the fight began. And it was a great fight at that point. And we struggled a little bit at the end with my brakes, but we managed to keep pressure on Michael. We did the most laps on the single tank, so we managed to stay in the track. So when we came out of the pits, we managed to get ahead of everybody. Unfortunately, I couldn't hold on Michael into the second turn. We wanted to finish. You know, the first half of the season hasn't been good for us, and we just didn't make a stupid move, and I was on cold tires. But I tell you, this is a great comeback for us. This is I won here my first victory, so I'm very happy. But this is in memory of our good friend Jeff Krovno and our good friend Greg Moore. Thank you.
Well done, Adrian. Here to present the second place runner-up trophy to Adrian Fernandez from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Adrian, come on back here just a moment later. And number 28 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ty Domi. Our next group have been around racing for a long time, and they've been a part of kart racing since 1982. And as mentioned previously, the 57th victory for Carl Haas and Paul Newman, the owners of Newman Haas Racing, and of course the proprietors behind the winning ride today by Michael Andretti. Carl Haas and Paul Newman. Come on over here, gentlemen. We'll have a brief chit-chat. The audience in Toronto would love to hear from you two people. Carl, no cigar. It's in your hand, but there it is. The victory cigar. 57 victories for you. It hasn't always been easy, but it's been terrific for Michael here in Toronto. You've got to be very pleased.
We've had a lot of good times in Toronto. And Michael did a great job. The whole crew did. It was a tough race, very, very close. You didn't see that much passing, but I guarantee you it was a very difficult race for everybody, and everybody was quick. And I really congratulate Michael and our crew and our sponsors, Kmart and Texaco, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Paul, a veteran ride by Michael Andretti today into case in point coming around the corner with Oriol Servia. He backed off.
And I wanted to say one thing else. That Ford motor was just terrific. Never missed the beat.
And the Ford motor was great as well, but the veteran expertise of Michael certainly helped strong throughout the entire race here today.
Yeah, well, he certainly did a terrific job, and I'll tell you, it's only going to get better. And with the fans like this, we can't make any mistakes. Best fans in the country.
Thank you very much, Carl and Paul. Now to present the winning trophy to these owners as well, the Chief Executive Officer for Molson Incorporated and its president as well, Mr. Dan O'Neill. Congratulations to all three of you gentlemen. Now, what a day for Michael Andretti. His sixth victory here in Toronto, the champion. The year 2000 to start it off for a new millennium. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Nazareth, Ontario, Michael Andretti. Michael, it's been 9 years since you last won the Kart FedEx Championship Series, but this team has reached the midway point this season, ready to make a concerted effort to finally wrestle that title back once again for you.
Well, that's for sure. I just want to say thank you to the whole Kmart Texaco Outlet team. They won us this race today. You know, we did it in the pits. I just tried to have patience on the track and wait for the pit stops because I knew those guys were going to get it for me, and they did. And it's perfect. And this just helps a lot for the championship. You know, all we got to do is just keep finishing and continue to do the job we've been doing the last few races, and we should be okay. But I just want to say I love Toronto. I love all you fans out here. You're the best. I wish I knew what it was about this place. I'd try to duplicate it everywhere else because it's just, it's been great. And also to finally do it on the new circuit here, that makes me feel a little better too.
Well said. We'll invite you to stay here and invite Dan O'Neill back from Molson Incorporated to present you with the championship trophy here, Molson Indy 2000. Michael Andretti, our champion this season. Michael, put your trophy back. We'll have Adrian and Paul come on up. It is now time for a little champagne, folks, so prepare to get wet. Michael Andretti, Adrian Fernandez, and Paul Tracy, a multinational podium once again here for the second straight year in Toronto.
And out come those single-serving bottles. Tommy, what's this like?
Well, they got the first objective is to get the girls wet. They did that. Michael, the proper technique is, well, they're both exhibiting pretty proper technique.
And they actually do manage to get a sip out of the bottom before it goes flat. It's got to be sweet, though. A long day in the cockpit. Michael Andretti, win number 6 in Toronto. Win number 40 all-time at the age of 37. Way to win one for the old guys. Michael Andretti.
The Molson Indy Toronto is sponsored by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian. And by Dodge. Dodge is proud to be the official vehicle sponsor of the Molson Indy Toronto. Visit your neighborhood Dodge retailer and discover the Dodge difference. And by Ascenda. Reach customers, drive sales, and increase profits with Ascenda from Sprint Canada, the complete marketing toolkit for small business, and proud sponsor of the Molson Indy Toronto.
Welcome back. Roberto Moreno continues to hold the points lead, but Michael Andretti makes a big move now within 2 as Moreno is shut out today. 20 points for the win, of course. Gilles de Ferran there, and Paul Tracy, who picks up a bunch for his third place finish, up to 73 now. Some 17 off the lead. Then you see Kenny Brack, Jimmy Vasser, Adrian Fernandez, who finished second today. The Nations Cup with Carpentier in the top 10 as well. Brazil leads. They had the front row today. United States with a big move on Michael's win today, and Canada with Paul Tracy finishing third also picks up a couple of points. And now let's check in at the Oasis with Laurie Belanger. Laurie?
Thanks, Don. We have had a terrific day here up at the Oasis. What a great race it was today, and what a great way to finish off a week of Molson Indy Fest. You know what, though? I think we converted a lot of race fans up here at the Molson Oasis today, because I did not see a single toe dipped into that hot tub. I think everyone was just too consumed by the race, and especially the pool winner who had Michael Andretti up here today. He went home awfully happy. And you know what? We had a visit from Paul Gross. We had Joe Canadian up here. And next year, we may be lucky enough to have Chris McClure, the movie star, since he is having such a big part in the movie Driven. Anyway, we'll have much more from the Molson Indy Toronto 2000 when we return.
Welcome back to Molson Indy 2000 on the Global Television Network as we continue with our post-race show. Let's have a quick recap of the race. And really, Tommy Kendall, it all started in the very first lap on turn 3 when guys got twisted out of shape.
That's where all the action happened. Yeah, Helio Castroneves gets his rear wheels locked going into turn 1, not into turn 1. Turn 1, you had Montoya really did a good move, backed out, could have gotten by both Michael and D'Amata, but chose to be a little wide. It didn't really help him much because his day only lasted at turn 3. You see Castroneves gets the rears locked, is able to gather it back up and starts a chain reaction behind him. Michael locks up, and then you have Montoya locked up and gets speared by Franchitti. Those guys get stuck together. Montoya saying, hey, no problem, doesn't quite know what happened, knows that Dario did not do it on purpose. Here's Norberto Fontana getting a nice punt from Tarso Marquez. Not a big factor. Those guys were a ways back in the pack. Pit stop to Ferrin trying to get in. You see in the background, Christian Fittipaldi got crossed up coming out of his pits, knocks his nose cone off, ends his day. Decisive move. Serbia down the inside of Fernandez. Fernandez decides to back out. They go side by side, gets back inside of Serbia. Serbia takes it in too hot, locks it up into the tires.
Well, it's Canada. Body checking is allowed.
Decisive move, was able to stay out a lap longer than the leader at this point, comes out in front, has to get his tires up to temp, was able to do that, held on to the lead, and then had the reverse thing have to happen to him. Fernandez able to go a little bit longer yet, is out on cold tires in front of Michael, and here is the move that wins the race. Adrian trying to hold him off, but has to stop a lot earlier. Michael goes the long way around the outside, chops back across the bow of Fernandez. Fernandez says, we've had a terrible start to the season. We need some points, and that was all she wrote. If he had let Adrian get his tires up to temp, chances are Adrian wins this race.
And you could almost feel the sweat materializing on Adrian Fernandez's forehead with that move. Now the Paul Tracy move.
Paul Tracy, you see D'Amata just gets a little bit of a bobble, and that is what put Paul Tracy through onto the podium. D'Amata battled that rear brake lockup for the entire race. Once he settled into fourth, he was able to keep that on. But Paul Tracy up for a podium all the way from 12th spot, gets his season back on track, takes a big point out of the points lead. Tagliani all over Moreno. Moreno struggling with gearbox trouble. Tagliani stuffs it down the inside after being held up. That cost him a shot at fourth, with D'Amata getting separated at this point, but into fourth place. Strong run from deep in the back. 17th for Tagliani. Paul Tracy up to the podium again. No points for 4 races in a row. Gets a big bunch of points. Moves him back up into a strong third in the championship. And Michael Andretti takes his 39th career win, his 9th on Canadian soil, a full 25% of his career wins coming in Canada.
Actually, career win number 40 with today as he moves into third on the all-time list. And Paul Tracy, you can tell with that helmet that it was very special to him today, wearing the helmet worn by Greg Moore. And the final celebration as Michael Andretti hoops it up with Adrian Fernandez and Paul Tracy on the podium. Michael Andretti now third all-time by himself, 12 behind his father, Mario. The all-time list. We'll have more of our post-race coverage of the Molson Indy 2000 in just a moment. Welcome back to Molson Indy 2000. Our post-race coverage continue. Michael Andretti, the Lola Ford, the package continues to work. His second win of the year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. Today, you had all the ingredients. You had perfect weather. Always one of the favorite races. Atmosphere-wise, sometimes the racing doesn't build up to it, but the best race of the year. You had all the ingredients. You had a front runner encountering some trouble. Pit strategy. Hometown hero makes it onto the podium, dedicates it to his fallen friend. But the pivotal moment of the race, Michael Andretti, the king of Toronto, makes a decisive move when he has to, patient all the way up until there, strikes when he had to, and takes his 6th win in Toronto.
Nothing like that veteran experience. And congratulations on a great call of the race, Tommy. An outstanding rookie performance. If you were in the my balloting would be for you for Rookie of the Year. No question about that. Tommy Kendall, thanks a lot.
Thank you, and really enjoyed it.
Tommy Kendall, and we'll be back with more of our post-race coverage. Molson Indy 2000 continues live on the Global Television Network. So the story from Exhibition Place, Michael Andretti, Adrian Fernandez, and Paul Tracy, the top 3. They've all won this race before. What can you say? Veteran experience paying off on this tough Toronto street course. A big move for Michael Andretti in the point standings. 20 for the win today. Moves him within 2 of Roberto Moreno heading into the second half of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks very much for tuning in. On behalf of Chris McClure, Laurie Belanger, Tommy Kendall, our pit reporters Todd Lewis and Alan Davis, I'm Don Martin. So long from Toronto.
Molson Indy Toronto. Prior to the race, Rick Moore, father of the late Greg Moore, presenting an award named after Greg to Helio Castroneves for winning the pole. Castroneves driving what would have been Greg's car in this race. A clean start with Castroneves leading through turn number 1, but on turn number 3, the problems began. Castroneves locks him up. Cristiano D'Amata takes the lead, heavy braking behind the pack as defending champion Dario Franchitti T-bones Juan Montoya. Both Franchitti and Montoya done before the first lap is complete. Westhill, Ontario's Paul Tracy, wearing a replica of Greg Moore's helmet for the race, started 12th up to 7th after just 8 laps. Lap 36 now, full course caution brings most in for pit number 1. But problems for Christian Fittipaldi. He gets into the back of Gilles de Ferran and tears his nose cone off. Fittipaldi's day is over. On the green flag, Paul Tracy getting inside Kenny Breck on turn number 3 to move into 6th position. Pole sitter Helio Castroneves was riding in 2nd, but exhaust problems knocked him out. His 5th DNF this season. The players' Forsyth drivers charging up the grid. Alex Tagliani into 7th after starting 19th. Patrick Carpentier into 10th spot. Adrian Fernandez, the last of the leaders to pit a second time, comes out in first place just ahead of Michael Andretti, but he can't hold the lead on those cold tires. Andretti by him into the lead. Cristiano D'Amata trying to hold off Paul Tracy. Big mistake right here, and it costs him as Tracy moves on the inside to pass him into 3rd. Alex Tagliani continuing his great ride. Passing points leader Roberto Moreno for 5th. Patrick Carpentier in 7th. Michael Andretti pulling away, extending his lead to nearly 5 seconds in the last 20 laps. Michael Andretti cruising to the checkered flag. His 6th win in Toronto, the 40th win of his career. Paul Tracy ends a 4-race pointless streak during which he had finished no better than 15th by ending up in 3rd spot. Canadians, 3 Canadians in the top 7. Just a terrific result for them. With the victory, Andretti moved into 3rd spot in career victories. In 2nd spot, his father, Mario, with 52, while A.J. Foyt is still first with 67. Sunday's race was a battle of attrition. Only 11 of the 25 cars that started actually finished. With more, here's David Amber.
Michael Andretti won his 6th Toronto Molson Indy by what he did on the track as well as what his team did in the pits. On lap 74, a great stop allowed the 37-year-old to take over the lead, one which he would not relinquish. Down the stretch, the American ran a technically perfect race. Never seriously challenged the Newman Haas driver, collected his 40th career kart win.
It was just a perfect day, perfect timing to make some ground on Roberto because he had some problems, and that's how you win championships, by taking advantage of other guys' problems. And if we can continue to do that the rest of the year, we'll be in good shape.
Next to Andretti, it was the 3 Canadians who stood out. Starting well back on the grid, all 3 finished strong. The players' team of Alex Tagliani and Patrick Carpentier stayed out of trouble, both finishing in the top 7. And hometown boy Paul Tracy had his 2nd straight Toronto podium. Starting in 12th, Tracy maneuvered well through the field, snapping a streak of 3 straight DNFs.
The steering wheel was all out of whack, and it was a little bit of a handful to drive all day, and had a big understeer in the right-handers, but we were able to just keep pace and keep pressure on guys, and came up with a 3rd.
Our problem was not finishing the race in the past 4. Now we're finishing, so you know, it's good for the points, but we still need to work a little bit harder on our car. But we learned a lot this weekend, find some stuff, and hopefully for the next road course we'll be very strong.
The only thing we had going for us today was getting some points and wait for the other guys to make mistakes and try to keep battling for the championship. But I don't consider this a good day.
The afternoon ended early for a few of the biggest names in kart. Defending race champ Dario Franchitti made contact with defending series champ Juan Montoya on the very first lap. Both were knocked out. As well, the curse of the pole continued in Toronto. Helio Castroneves left with engine problems on lap 46, marking the 5th straight year the pole sitter finished worse than 15th.
It is tough. It is very upsetting, especially for us that have been working very hard. I know everybody's been also doing the same thing. But hey, this has happened as well. It's racing. You just have to put our head focus to the next race and repeat a good job.
Juan, Michael, and myself were sort of jostling for position, and somebody locked up the front, one of the front guys, and all hell broke loose. I was trying to keep the car straight. I got into contact with and we ended up tangled together.
Andretti has now won in Toronto in 3 different decades, a truly amazing feat. As well, it gives him his 2nd win of the season, and now he's creeping up on the overall driver standings. At the halfway point, he finds himself just 2 points behind overall leader Roberto Moreno. At the 15th Toronto Molson Indy, I'm David Amber for Sports Desk.
Thanks, David. As for the champion.
Michael, can you talk about what the turning point in this race was for you?
Well, I think the turning point was where it was, we won the race, really, was on the last pit stops. You know, my guys, the whole Kmart Texelhaven team did a great job in the pits and got me out really fast. And then a couple of the other guys went a little further than us, and they were coming out right in front of us, but they had cold tires, and we were able to pass them when they had cold tires and take advantage of that. So from then on, it was just try to bring it home, and you know, everything was perfect. The Ford engine was perfect, the car, the Lola was perfect, tires held up well, so it was just one of those days then just to bring it home.
At 37 years of age, you're hardly an old guy, but you've now won here in Toronto in 3 different decades. Your response?
Wow, I didn't realize that. 3 different decades, wow, in one track, so it's awesome.
How close were you to getting in trouble on turn 3 when it knocked out Franchitti and Montoya?
Probably closer than I knew. I was having my own problems trying to gather it up because it was like ice when I went down there in the first lap, and I'm sure those guys experienced the same thing, and I'm lucky they didn't get into me.
Finally, 5 years since you won in Toronto. Does that make this one, even though it's the 6th, make it a little bit extra special?
It does, because I was beginning to wonder if I could do it on this new circuit, you know, with the new configuration, and so it was good to finally do it here and show that I could still run strong here.
Michael, congratulations. A great race. Your 6th win in Toronto, your 40th kart win of your career.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations. Let's send it back to Sports Desk.
Manitobans got their first